Okay. Firing up this thing on a wonderful 7th of February. And I'm going to, I guess, probably get the box first. As soon as everybody you know, finds out about it, I just put the word out that this is up. So we'll see that everybody gets in, and then I'll figure out what's inside of the mystery box. I think I kind of know what this is. Honestly, I don't know that I know. I think I know. There's the mystery box. It's a big box. There's Scott. It's a big box. It has Fragile written on it. Fragile. I remember the first time I heard somebody write or say Fragile. Fragile. Anyway, so I got this big monstrosity. As soon as you know, everybody gets in here, we'll crack this big beastie open. How's it going, Peter? We'll open this thing up and we'll see what's in it. I actually don't think I know all what's in this box. I know it was coming, and I know it's supposed to be just random stuff. So we're going to see random stuff in here. Radio bits and parts and things like that. Dave, good evening. So, we'll give it a bit, because it is, you know, 21:12. So that's for those who don't do 24-hour time, that it was 9:12 p.m. Who Smugger does? Yeah, that's about what's in here. So, anyways, I guess we'll get this show on the road, and we'll have a look-see and see what's inside of this monstrosity that is supposed to be random bits and stuff. So, you know, and I was also said, hey Santos, that, you know, it's not going to be packed because it's all junk, you know, very well. So it's not packed very well. So, you know, not to criticize any pack shop. I was warned about it. Oh my goodness. So anyways, I'm going to open this thing up and get all the tape all over my knife. Probably ought to change the blade in this thing. It's starting to get a little dull. So let's see what kind of random rubbish we have in here. We got paper. There you go. That looks like a whole bunch of random rubbish. We got boards, we got chassis. Yeah, we got parts. These are parts for sure. We got some big humongous thing here with a huge heatsink on it. Alright, so this looks like a 148-ish radio. I'd say so, with a Butcher channel mod. You know, and a push button. This was probably Noise Toys. But yeah. So, it's a parts radio, obviously. Parts chassis are, you know, this has got one of those RCI 8719s. I actually want to play with those. So, we got more boards. What is this? It looks like a... Oh, what would this be? I guess this is another 148-ish board. It's just these are just parts boards. That's told about. This is just random parts boards, you know, just tossed in here. You know, I mean, I could see why some of these boards were made parts boards, because they're probably close to not repairable, just because they're really just butchered up. You know, so they're parts. These are all bits and parts. You see, this one's just been, you know, demolished. This looks like a black box radio. This is where there were some adders, and we got a 145, 106 PLL. We got cans, you know, and so on and so forth. This is a black box, one of those classic black box CBs. You know, just the board. This one, of course, looks like another 148. More of the same Ranger RCI 8719. I really want to take these out and play with it because yeah, parts radios are good to have. You know, so you know, I really can't complain. I mean, they were free. I'm not going to complain. The boards look they look like they're in pretty bad shape, which is probably why they're parts radio. Well, they were turned into parts radio. They look like they were in bad shape. You know, probably not really very repairable. All right, so let's get these things out, and then since there's nothing else in this box, we'll get rid of the box. Probably. I'm sure this is not a 980 SSB in here. It's another radio inside of it. It's a Jackson. So we're going to play with a Jackson. And this thing is a AR3500. So we're going to play with an AR3500 with missing buttons and I have no microphone for it. I wonder what the knob is for. Covers are open. Well, you can't get the cover off hardly because it's got that knob on the side. Woo! Talk about old technology. Woo-hoo-hoo. That's pretty old. I wonder what this box is. I've actually never seen one of these radios inside before. I've actually never seen one. So this is the first one I'm actually ever seeing. I don't know that I'm all that impressed. I wonder what all these resistors here are for. These baud resistors. The 3500. I don't know. This thing looks like it's been through a lot. I honestly don't know anything about them, so I'm wondering what is this with the pot, with this board. What's this? I really wonder what this is. It's kind of an interesting thing. So, we got boxes in here. Certainly these were not like really factory mods, were they? Video of it hitting the floor. I don't get it. So what do we got? Let's take a peek. I don't know what that is that's down there. If that's the phase lock loop area or not. I see a VCO here, so presumably it's I don't know. It definitely has an amp module on the back of a bent heatsink. Unless it's supposed to be bent. Something tells me that it's not supposed to be bent. But I don't know. How would I know? Let's take a look inside of it. I wonder if it's a salvageable radio. Like, can it be fixed? Will it make for some interesting videos trying to restore? Oh, it's an amplifier for sure. I can't see what kind of transistors it has because they've got braid over the top of them, so I have no idea. At first glance, it looks like it's actually might be decently designed, which is somewhat uncommon for a radio like this. Now the hole in the back looks like it was well. No, that hole in the back, that was stamped with a machine. This is factory. Yeah, this is factory. Yeah. Answering text messages from people who were saying that they'll be here in a few minutes. Anyway, so it's a speech processor box. I wonder what this thing is. This is going to totally be an experimental thing for sure. This is going to be cool to play with. But I have to get diagrams and, you know, figure out what this radio is and how it works before I want to venture off into it. Because I see lots of cut harnesses and things like that. So if I want to try to fix it, I need to... so we got a little board here with coax in, coax out, 5 transistors, a cap, some resistors, and some stuff that's going up here to the mode switch. And something that's going up to the CW jack. And it says Optivo. Beats me. Yeah, beats me. So, yeah, I'm going to have to try to find him. I don't know anything about him. I really don't know anything about him. So I'm going to have to, you know, do some videos on this beastie once I discover what all it does. Because it looks like we have some sandwich boards up on. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We've got a couple of boards up there on the display. Oh, yeah. I wonder if this positive lead is disconnected because this amp is shorted or something. Because I think that's one of the failure modes for these transistors, if I'm not mistaken, is that they short. You know, the big RF transistors. I thought that one of the failure modes was just a short. So let's have a gander and see if that's what the problem is. Find somewhere where there's a ground here. No. I mean, there's a chance. We'll play with it. We'll have to play with this. Got a big post sticking up through the board there. So, yeah, I'm guessing that's all the PLL and whatnot in here. But yeah, it looks like it's going to be a fun. I think this is going to make a fun project. So, we'll have to do this one for a fun project. So let's look at the Jackson. Now I know what the Jacksons. The Jacksons, I think, were some of the early black box radios. Like this one, I think was probably one of the first black box radios ever, wasn't it? These Clear Channel Rangers, I think they were like the first black box radios. Somebody will have to correct me if I'm wrong. Initial turn-on time. This radio may require a few moments for the computer circuits to stabilize, especially in colder temperatures. Interesting. I wouldn't have known that. We'll have to look at these computer circuits that they talk about and see how they work, and you know, do an analysis of those computer circuits. It's going to be an interesting teardown. All right, so this Jackson. Dave Jones, don't turn it on. Take it apart. Let's just take it apart. See what we got. I see wires hanging out of it, so I just don't want to turn it on. So let's see what we got inside of the black box radio. Typical of President, you know, with the radios of this era, about how they set out to design their radios with these knobs over here and so on and so forth. So let's see. We got a little board strapped in here. Who knows what it's for? Beats me. Piece of cardboard under it. Wire tied. Looks mostly intact. You know, we got some wires hanging off. This is exactly why. Let's get these covers out of the way. Wonder what this is. We got a little board here standing up off the side with some diodes, resistors. This is, oh, these are all diodes. That's interesting. What is that? It's wire tied. What is that thing? It's factory. It's not a bodge or anything. It's clearly factory, but I'm really curious to know what all the diodes are about. This is diode steering. Ooh, what's wrong? The poor dog. Oh, that's not good. I like dogs. Oh, okay. I think I see what they're doing here. This is a way to... This is just diode steering. Yeah, this is the poor way of doing it. And then we had these binary 4-bit adders. So when we had the bands, it would add... right, exactly. It would add banks of channels, and presumably one of the things that I thought that these radios did is they switched crystals. It looks like it had a glue problem. Some of the glue's still in it, but it's rather curious. So let's see what this thing is. I have no idea what this is. Let's take a peek. I don't have a manual or anything like that, so... Well, we've got this module with wires going to the mic jack and going somewhere else. What is it? It looks fine otherwise. I mean, you know, take this cardboard off, see what this thing is all about. It's a sealed can with some pieces of coaxial cable going out, and then we go up to one of the switches up here, which is the noise blanker switch. The little diode steering programming interface board is a PB-043 alpha. So we got a 56K resistor array. It could be, but it's got two coaxial cables, so I would be wondering if it's an echo. We got a couple of pots that we can access from the top, so this is one of the radios that uses this interesting audio amplifier, the UPC 1242H. These wires were obviously the speaker that we're hanging out. There's no, yeah, there's a speaker on there. I don't know. So, a lot of this is to be figured out, like what it goes to, where the wires went, and maybe you can restore it and see if it can't be fixed or figured out or played with. One of the things that's going to end up with is, because I'm really not a fan too much of these black box radios, is I'm going to end up playing with it. I'm going to tear it to pieces. You know, we got our little shunting, you know, thing here, and I end up tearing it to pieces. So it's going to be torn up. So be interesting. It's going to be interesting to play with it. I think I'm going to have fun with this. So, yeah, it's going to be fun. So that's basically today's mystery stuff. So we're going to play with it. But I got the, I'm going to definitely need them because I don't know anything about it. You know, I'm going to definitely need it because I just don't know anything about it. It looks like it had an option for an SWR bridge, but it was never installed on this. So they just, you know, they would have normally gotten RF from here, and they just jumpered it over here, and that's where they got RF from. Let's see. There's another connector on the back here that's covered up by this label, or a hole that was done factory, and it covers up that label. It's an interesting. I don't know what the single soul transistor is that's in here. Probably a 2312 or something like that. No, that couldn't possibly be a 2312 or a 1969 because the collector is grounded. No, what is that? That's not. Huh. That's rather curious. What the collector is grounded. This is something else. This is. Oh, yes. Those, I think, are on obtainium, too. I wondered if I have any of those. We'll play with it. Anyways, I know it's something that a lot of people want to see, and I'm going to go get this thing. I've been getting asked. No, it's one of the original Motorola BJTs that were RF transistors. They were BJTs. Various kinds of RF transistor. So anyways, let me just get this Frankenstein from this other bench here, and show you guys what if I can carry this Frankenstein in its entirety. That's kind of debatable. I'm going to try, because I was definitely hacking this sucker up, man. Uh-oh. Yes, it's the Cobra 29. It's the Cobra 29 LX. So, yes, I've been hacking at this for... Yesterday I hacked at this pretty good, and I figured out the display protocol. Anyway, you see these bodge wires that are coming down off of here that I got sort of tacked onto points on the board there. Okay, so what we have here is we have the most hokey, shitty, craziest ass display protocol probably in the history of humanity. Until somebody can beat this, this is the biggest piece of shit display protocol in history. Okay, I know a lot of people are probably not going to understand it. I'll do my best. Because it's like, it took me a while to figure out what was going on. It just was, it was maddening, the insanity of this. I mean, yeah. All right, so I need to power the radio up. All right, now the program that runs in the micro only runs once. So I have to start the radio up. Because right now both buses are connected. There's no display. That's because the radio is being hosed. Actually, what's happening is the radio is going into this damned conniption because I've got stuff attached to the bus, and it's completely unhappy about other things pulling on the bus. So if I take this away, turn off the radio, turn it back on, okay, you'll see it comes up, okay? So the radio is now up, but now I'm going to go and I'm going to overwrite the contents of the display. There you go. So, that's right, fellas. That's right. It is, it is under my control. So, basically, the best way I can describe this and I'm going to do my best for those of you who want, if you're interested in playing with this, okay? I'm going to need a piece of paper because this is going to be hokey, is what it is going to be. Yeah. I thought about writing that on that, but I can write anything I want. It's just fired off by the program, but the program, it's a very simple program that just fires the data to the display. That's all it does. It's literally just a straight, you know, run of initialization data and whatnot. So, piece of paper, okay? I need to look. I didn't print out the code or anything like that, so I'm just gonna get this here on a computer. All right, so basically we have 4 wires in here, okay? We have a command or data wire, which I haven't seen this in a really long time. The 2510 friends use this. Basically, if the line is high, it's data. If the line is low, you're sending a command. So when you want to send a command to the display, you pull the line low, you pull the strobe low, you clock in your command, and then you go high on your strobe and on your command line. And then your command, it's not acknowledged or anything, but you've basically sent this command to the display. A command would be something like to select a position on the display. Like, say, I want to write the data to the first row. So because you have a command for a column and row, you know, and so you send that command. Any subsequent data that you send to it, it will write to that row of display, up to 15 bytes. So the following 15 bytes after you initiate this command writes to that row. So the command to select the first column and row is 0x90 is the command that you would send, and then that's going to select first column, first row, and then from there you write in data. So if you wanted to write in, say, hello, you would send in the 4 bytes for the 5 bytes for the word hello. So you would send in, I'm just looking up at my chart, 48, 45, 4C, 4C, 4F in hex values, and that would write the word hello on the display. So, yes, it is made by Giant. I found that in FCC documents. Then you have 0x80, that writes the second, and then you have 0xAO, and that, or A0, and that writes the third row of data. Okay, now then you have 0x40. 0x40 writes, I'm going to turn this on again because I have to show this because this is crazy as hell. This is what I have to draw on a piece of paper because this is like doesn't make any sense. Okay, so it's still remembered. Can you do an active frequency counter in the display? Yes. The answer to that is yes. It's just simply a matter of sending the data to the display, and then you can draw anything you want on it. I mean, I have complete and total control of this whole display right now. I can draw anything I damn well want, literally, on this display. I can control anything that has a segment on here. Anything. I'll have to copy the program over to this computer and then toggle some bits to demonstrate that, but I didn't do it. because right now the program is a very, very simple program. All it does is send data. All right, so if you notice the S meter, you see, you'll see how I've got noise blanker, ANL, SRF, SWR, and CAL all eliminated. That's because I'm setting the bits to turn on all those displays. And you just, I got some bits in the S meter here. That's actually the S meter. If you notice, the S meter scales are not eliminated. You can actually turn off all of the S meter scales. There's data for that. There's a command to turn off all of those displays. Well, actually, it's simple. They're not on by default. You have to tell it to turn them on. So 0x40, this is a hex value, so 40 hex does anything that comes after that, and it is so when you send it 40 hex, okay, so you'll have to probably play this video a few times. You have to send, after you send 40 hex, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 bytes of data that turn on all the segments on that one side, okay? But here's the kicker, okay? So I have to draw out a packet. Okay, so you have 0x40, and then you have a packet. Now you have 8 bits in a byte. So, and it's most significant bit to least significant bit. So I'm going to write this out. So I got 0, 0, 0, 0, first nibble, okay? 0, 0, 0, 0, second one. Okay, so that would be 1, that would be 0x, there's nothing there, okay? So in order to, say, turn on some digits, or some parts of, I'm going to use one as an example, like on that one side over there, like for the S meter and all that. You have to send them in order. That's the only problem. But I'm going to give an example crazy ass packet that you would have to send to turn on the SRF display, the little segment that says SRF. I believe it's 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0. That will turn on that one segment. I believe it's this position. Don't. I have it all in code. I have to look at it. That would turn on this position in one of those packets after you send this. In fact, it would be this is actually the last packet, incidentally, because the first packets actually do things like the meter and all that. But here's the problem. Every packet that you send after 0x40, which is it's a command, incidentally. So this is a command, and then the preceding bytes, ignore this. This is the structure, okay? These are, they don't care about these first 3. They're not used in any of the packets. The first 3 most significant bits are not used in any packet. These do nothing in any packet. It is the last 5 bits of every packet that actually toggle things on the display. As crazy as that is. And that took me a while to figure out, because it's like, why did they do that? It makes no sense. But each bit turns on a segment on the display. Now you would think that these last 5 bits, so let me turn this on again. I know I'm probably explaining this like complete crap. Those of you who want to see actual code, I can send you some actual code that would illustrate it. Okay, so you see on these here you have noise blanker, ANL, SRF, SWR, and CAL. So you have these 5 things here. I'm not surprised at all. I have haters. They hate. It's just, it is what it is. So, just I'll get a few emails. What was one that I got yesterday that I should kill myself? I got that one yesterday. Yeah, I get stuff like that. I literally get stuff like that. It's quite sad, but I'm not going to allow them to deter me. I know I have a whole lot of other people You probably have some of the same haters that I have. Mike has, Buddy has. Who else has some? Oh, you have haters. Basically, you have haters. You're not getting a video change. All you see is a radio and board. Really? Is it paused, Peter? I don't know. I'm talking about this stuff here, or I mean, I've got a piece of paper. Yeah, I don't know. So Peter, is anything, you just use anything at all, or yeah, see if we can sort out whatever was happening with Peter, because he says he's not getting any video, it's just frozen or something. We definitely don't want any frozen video. I can see things waving around, so it seems to be working. But let me make sure. Let me actually look at the actual stream to make sure it's not hung up or something crazy like that. No, it's working, at least for me. That kind of sucks. All right. So, anyways, Peter, chime in if you're still having trouble. We can try to help you sort it. Oh, did it actually freeze? Okay. Well, when I get haters and they post comments, I've tried to make this abundantly clear to many people. Okay, and I've had people come in here in the stream and say stuff in the comments, in the chat box there. I've had people attack other people. I've had people attack other people here, basically because there's a crowd of people, and you know what happens when you get a crowd of people. Somebody who is attention seeking and they want to defame some other person. There has been several haters and a lot of stuff that's just completely unwarranted that I really I'm not a fan of it. I don't like any anti-Semitic, hate speech, any of that nonsense. That stuff really grinds my gears. Don't do it. I don't like hearing, ill will towards other people on YouTube. I've had people come in and flame other YouTubers. That's not in the cards. Don't do it. I know everybody who's here now that's talking and whatnot, they're generally behaved. Well, all of you guys are behaved. We have a few people every once in a while that pop in and they kind of, straddle the line a little bit. But, most part people are okay. I don't have a problem. But I get emails, you should kill yourself. Jeez, bud. Originality there? You get them. I get them. I get them a lot. I know other people have gotten hate mails. I've heard about it, but we have a few clowns, basically. Def Palm's videos getting thumbs down. What I would encourage you guys to do, and I'll say it, go to all of Def Palm's videos and thumbs up every bloody one of them. If somebody's going to thumbs down his videos, thumbs up every freaking one of them. Counteract that kind of nonsense. That's just ridiculous because I like his videos. Anyway, before we stray off too much, these 5 bits in here that are the noise blanker, the A&L, the SRF, the SWR, and the CAL. There's a bit that controls each one of these displays. So you toggle a bit, it turns it on or off. Plain Jane stuff. So, the thing about this is, none of these, like for example, the display digits. You would think that they would put all of these things, like the S meter in a bit, or in a byte rather, and these things in a byte. They would use the whole thing, right? You would think they would use the whole thing. Well, no. They've actually got the display, which would have the channels normally. Let me let the radio go back to its normalcy by unplugging, and you see when I start running the radio and it restores, I'm not stepping on it anymore, so it's going to going back to normal here. So you see the display is now back to normal. You know, until I run the program again, you know, by stomping on the data stream. The way I stomp on the data stream is simply by telling my micro to drag the line down until it's going to talk to it. There's some interference being generated because I got these really long wires, so every once in a while you see the display sort of glitch. That's because I'm injecting a whole lot of noise onto the data bus with this, you know, sort of long wires. So now that it's restored back to normal, you have these display segments here. So this is on channel 4, so it says 04. Well, they're only using 5 bits in a packet. So you start thinking about it. Well, in order to do the 7 segments that are here, you know, you've got to use a whole bunch of different packets to draw this out. It's just weird. It's actually going all kinds of weird because, yeah. Yeah, it's all kinds of weird because I'm just putting all kinds of nonsense into the bus with this, but so they don't. I don't know how better to explain it. It's basically every byte they only use the 5 least significant bits, and the first 3 are just nothing. It doesn't matter what you set them to. They just don't get looked at by the processor in the display. It doesn't care about them. So, you know, you could do a digit, okay? One digit with one byte and another digit with another byte. You could totally do it. In fact, most display drivers that you get, speaking of which, I actually got some in the post earlier today, and I literally got them like this. I got these off of AliExpress, and I'm going to play with them. These things showed up after like a few months. I literally got them in a bag like this. These are display drivers. I got them in a bag like this, not in a tube. There's 50 of them in here. I had a whole lot of them. I had them for like $10. But the problem is the data sheet's written in Chinese, so I have to sort of figure it out. One of our interns can speak Chinese and write Chinese, so he's going to translate the data sheet for me. And these are display drivers for 7-segment displays. These are TM1639s. It's made by a Chinese company, so the data sheet's all in Chinese. $10 or something like that for 50. Very, 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 very cheap, which is what I kind of liked about them. But I have to figure out the data sheet. But they sent them like this. I mean, they're not like salvage parts or anything. I think what they did is they were probably in a tape, and they just went and they ripped the tape open and poured them into a bag, and they sent them like that. So anyway, so when you send a command, typically to a display driver like this, you send it a command, and then you send it a byte, and that byte is depending on what other command you sent it to set up whatever registers, because you got to keep in mind a lot of these display drivers, they have like BCD decoders and built-in fonts and things like that. So you have like BCD, and you have ASCII, where it'll do the 0 through 9 and A, B, C, D, E, and F on the 7-segment display. And some of them are even a little bit more enhanced than that. They'll do like P and a couple of other letters that you can sort of squeeze out on a 7-segment display. Some of them, depending, they're nifty. These ones I don't think have any kind of fonts or decoders. I got put onto these because there's something around here that I have that uses one, so I could very easily just simply sniff its bus to decode the packets that it's sending and work it out. Now these, from what I understand, this will drive up to, I believe, 8 segments. So they're kind of cool about that, and that's what I was interested in. I believe it'll drive up to 8 segments, this one chip. So you could get very, very, very creative with something like that. In fact, the thing that uses these is actually up here. I just thought of what it was that uses it. This counter here uses this chip. This 8 digits, that's it right there. That's the same chip. Well, if you tell me which one you got, chances are I might have code for it. And I don't mind sharing. So if it's a display driver, I have code for it. Probably save you some time right with the interface. And here, use this. If it's one that I've got, I don't have the code for this. I'm going to write it though. The reason I'm going to write it is because I can get these for about 30 cents. You know, it's just a numbers game. I think the Austrian Microsystems display drivers that I normally use, I think they're about $4 a chip. You know, they're pretty expensive, but they're also very, very good drivers. You know, they have lots of features. So these I don't think have very many features. I think these are literally just dumb drivers for the most part. They have a very simple command structure. I think you can set like the brightness, and there's definitely some commands you can send them for brightness and things like that. You know, for the you know, biasing the LEDs. But other than that, I don't think there's really very much as far as by the way of commands, other than you send a command because you want to write a certain digit. But basically, you send your hexadecimal value, which basically corresponds to, you know, whatever bit you have in there, and you know, whatever bits you want, which basically each one of these bits in the packet corresponds to a segment on the display. So when you talk about 7-segment displays, well, there's 7 segments in there. If they have a decimal point, which this doesn't have, the decimal point is usually the 8th bit. So you have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, D, P, or something like that. And that would correspond to each one of these bits. So if there's a 1 here, well, it draws 1 segment. You know, so, I mean, that's basically how these things work in a nutshell. You send it a value, it lights up the corresponding digits or segments on the display for that digit. You know, you can multiplex it yourself, but a chip like this does all the multiplexing for you. You send it a packet, it handles all of that. But there's absolutely no reason you can't multiplex with a microcontroller. That works fine too. One other thing that I actually have done, and I have done this before, is an ATtiny40. Is a very cheap microcontroller, and with an ATtiny40, you can use that as a display driver simply by using the I2C slave mode on the micro, send it the data, write up your program so that you can send it a command, and then the subsequent byte is a to select a digit, and so on and so forth. Shift registers, so like 74 or 595s or something like that. You could definitely use shift registers to do it. Use shift registers usually for I/O expansion. Well, more of O expansion, not I. Yeah, 595s. Look into the ATtiny40. Pretty sure I have some of those up here. I'll show you why they might actually make a good driver. See if I find them in my bag here. Since we're talking about displays and drivers and things like that, ATtiny40s make excellent display drivers. Where are they? Here we go. ATtiny40s. I use them for display drivers when I need a tight squeeze. That's because they're little itty bitty tiny things. You know, very tiny. So what you do is you put your ATtiny40, you have your display, okay, and so you have your display. I mean, you see that they're little teeny tiny things. I mean, compared to the size of this, I mean, yeah, it's a little teeny tiny thing. So display module, 7-segment display module. Let's say one of these boards right here that doesn't have anything. There's no driver. Like $1, I think. This is why they're good. You write the code once, you flash it, you turn it into a display driver. So let's say this was your display, okay? So on this one, I have a connector here. You see the top row of pins and the bottom row of pins there. That's what the display would solder. But you could put that chip right in between the pins of the chip, and little teeny tiny thing, and then you can have your harness go out, which is your 2, 3, 4 wires, you know, power, ground, SCA, SDL, you know, your clock data, because you just use I2C, and yeah, it turns into a little tiny display driver. And the advantage of that is, if you do that, you don't have any noise problem, because there is no noise. It's going right into the chip. You just have to have your little resistor array on there with you and whatnot. But you could squeeze it in there. It'll totally fit. I've done it, and it will totally fit behind a 7-segment display, right on the same board. You have to write that. Yeah. What, the AT Tiny 40? It uses SPI. Like on the on one of these programs, this is an ATmel ICE. This is what we call a squid connector. You have for SAM on here, which is these are the SAMs are the ARM Cortex processors, and you just move the cable over to the SAM port when you want to use the big JTAG. But for the AT Tiny, you use the little 6-pin ICSP. It's, you know, you can actually, where do I have one? This is a debugger. You know, this is a debugger. So if you're going to play around with Atmel stuff, I mean, I always tell people this: buy a debugger. It saves you so much time. And this is a debugger. Where is my AVR ISP? It's probably over here. And let's see if I can find it really quick so I can show you guys what an AVR ISP is. Is it over here? I don't see it. No, I kind of have a mess over here. I need to clean this up. Anyway, an AVR ISP is a little blue box. Interestingly enough, I actually have the box still sitting up here. Should probably throw this out. I don't need the box. Pretty much. I don't think there's anything in here as far as pictures. Well, that's the shape of it. I don't know. I guess I kept the thing because it had software in it, and even though I never took it out, as well. Yeah, this is software. It's a DVD with. Oh, this is Atmel's technical library. You should really get one of these. Since you're playing around with that stuff, you should get one. Totally go get a AVR or Atmel ICE. You can use it with the Arduino. In fact, all the Arduinos have the where do I have an Arduino around here? I had to find one because I was messing around with that 145 170 code you sent me, actually. Here it is. I normally don't obviously use Arduinos, but here's an Arduino. I'm sure you're familiar. It's not an actual Arduino. Same difference. And there's a plug here. And You just plug that in there. And that's it. I think you can do debug wire. I think the AT Mega 328s do debug wire. These were cheap. I think these things are like $5 or something like that. I'll get like a whole bunch of them. I also have like a tube of the. I have a tube of 328s because I actually use 328s for some things. But I don't use a 328 in a dip package. I use a 328 in a QFP. I have tons of 328s in QFP. Here's some 328s in QFP right here. So, yeah, I use them in QFP. I use them for usually bus interface stuff, glue logic, for very, very light tasks. But yeah, so you can plug this into this and you have a debugger. A lot of these clones, and I know the other Arduinos, they have this little jumper here, and there's usually a little track. You have to cut the track in order to use the debugger, because the reset line can't toggle. There's a capacitor on the reset line that causes it to that allows it to the other slave micro on here that they're using for a USB bit banged USB to serial that can reset the microcontroller, and there's a cap that they use to interface that because the cap just gives it that little burst to reset. Can they be? Yeah, you just cut that little track. There's a little blob. There is a track in between the two pads. You cut it, and then you can use this. But you can't use the Arduino environment. And once you do that, because now you're flashing directly. What's handy about them is the form factor. You can just plug this thing in, get it real quick up and running in Atmel Studio. Literally 2 minutes, you're up and running, because you get your knife and you cut that thing in between there, and now it's just a board with a pin header on it, and now you can go to town writing whatever you want to write. The advantage, of course, is now you don't have the bootloader, and their bootloader actually takes up, I don't know, a couple of K of space in the microcontroller. So now you don't have the bootloader. So you can have a little bit bigger of a program. So if I use them, I never use them with the Arduino. Like, I never use the USB port. I tend to mod them and plug them into an AVR ISP or an Atmel ICE like this, and then use them that way. They're good little development boards for that. They're perfect for it, and they're cheap and disposable, and it's socketed. So unless you do something like really bad, like burn traces or do something like that, you screw up your chip, pull another one out, put another one in, and you're done. And so that's what I use them for. I use them for little throwaway dev boards. But most of the time, I end up just changing the chip on them, and because sometimes you can brick them or burn them up or something. You just you're dicking around, you screw it up. And I probably should get some that don't have USB. But anyway, on this thing with the display, this is very rudimentary right now. I'm obviously going to do more work on this. I don't know if I'll be able to do it tonight, but when I plug this in and run the program, boom, I step on it. So I totally wipe the display data that they send, and I'll upload my own to the display. So the timings are a little funny on this. Okay. So you're going to be using a quad flat pack 328. It's the same chip. You can flash those with the Arduino stuff just as much. It's just a different form factor, and you can get, of course, they're little tiny, QFPs. So yeah, you could probably get that thing you're talking about into a board that's this size or smaller. I mean, this is not a big board. This is 34 by 33. It's pretty small. You could definitely squeeze a 328 QFP, all of the interface stuff right on there. You could totally do it. It's totally doable. And you could even have pins like this one to go right into the board. And the only thing that comes off this is your display data. Oh, well, yeah. That works too. I didn't think about that angle. Because if you already have that board, you just, yeah, plug it in. And it has already a programming interface. So, yeah, that's yeah. I've never seen the Pro Mini. I have to Google that. What is a Pro Mini? Let's see. And Pro Mini, is it an Arduino thing? Pro Mini Arduino. Google's. That is pretty small. Yeah, that is pretty small, isn't it? What is it, about the size of a American quarter? Something like that. I actually don't have any Yank money. I have Canadian money. I used to go to Canada all the time. And so I have a lot of Canadian money. It's changed because, in Canada they use a lot of coins for their currency, but the Yank quarters are the same as the Canadian 1.5 by 2 inches. That is pretty, yeah. This is the same size as a Yank quarter, and this is about it's about an inch. So that and two, yeah. Yeah, the pin headers take up the most room. So anyway, that's a Canadian quarter. This is a Yank nickel, and a Yank penny. This is a Canadian $2. They have the copper-ish slug, and of course they have the Queen on the currency because it's a Commonwealth country, obviously. This is $1. This one. So yeah, Canadian. I used to go to Canada all the time. Absolutely wonderful in Canada. Canadians are great blokes. I like Canadians. They say everything. Eh? Eh? I had one of them that kept saying that to me. Eh? Eh? And it's like B, C, D. Are you saying A or what? Canadians are great. I love them. So, anywho, so yeah, that's basically the display and the box, and yeah. Because we have haters, a Yank coin, like the nickel, the penny, the dime, the quarter, those things are their money, their currency. In fact, someone gave me their. I don't, I don't tend to carry banknotes. And someone gave me banknotes earlier. I don't know what I did with them. They're in the pocket of a pants. I probably should go and find those pants before they end up in the wash. Although the American money is actually very resilient. It goes through the wash and it stays, intact. So, it's fairly robust stuff. 2 thumbs down. Well, then I would encourage everybody to thumbs up the thing. I generally don't ask people to thumbs up, subscribe. I don't ask people to do that. I think that if you want to do that, don't say what? Yank? Oh, I don't know. I just find it amusing when they call me a Yank. It's like, okay. It's confusing to me. Anyway, so I don't know. People get a thumbs down. And sometimes they don't like what I say. If I really wanted to thumbs down it, I guess I could start talking about Donald Trump. That will probably earn me lots of thumbs downs. But, you know. Yeah. Or idiots like Boris Johnson and Nigel Farage. I can't stand Nigel Farage. I think that he needs to take a long walk off of a short pier. I just can't stand Nigel Farage. I can't. Sorry. I can't. I was going to copy this code really quick to a thumb drive and bring it over to this computer and toggle some bits on this display. But yeah, I don't like Nigel Farage. I can't stand the guy. You know, UKIP, those guys, they just seem to be, you know, I'm not a fan of them. I think they're a bunch of idiots. I just don't like the party. I don't mind the causes. I actually don't mind a lot of the causes. I just don't like the people and what they do. Sorry, I don't. Although I have sort of changed my tune about Brexit in recent months. That I'm kind of, I guess, for it now than against it. And that's because of the Sharia police running around London. That's just ridiculous. Oh, don't get me started on that one. I don't like that. I don't think they should do it in America. I don't think they should do it in Britain. I just don't think they should be doing it. You want to go and have Sharia police, go run back to bloody wherever the hell you came from. Where is this thing? I'm looking for my Atmel Studio projects directory. Yeah, where is it? Am I having trouble finding this project? Where is it? There we go. I finally got it. Alright, so I want to just send this to a compressed zip folder, send this to my thumb drive really quick, and then poof, because it's a very small project, and alright, so now I got it on this thumb drive. Americans were called septic tanks. That's funny. I like that. Yeah, some people don't like Donald Gump. I call him High Chancellor. High Chancellor Gump. People don't like it when I say that. They don't get a lot of people don't get the reference to the book. The V for Vendetta book. They don't get it. They had a book, they had a movie, in fact, about it, saying, which was, I think, that I don't think was followed the book very closely, as I recall. I don't think I liked the movie. I think the book was better. You know, you had Adam Susan that fell in love with the computer, you know. He was a nutcase. So on Atmel Studio. Why is it not on my start menu anymore? Good night, man. You have a good night. Thumbs up. Yes, thumbs up. Thumbs up. Yeah, this one's probably going to break the records for the thumbs downs. Yeah, what are you going to do? Some people just, they don't want to tell you why. I mean, that's the thing. If some of you guys watch Def Palm, his videos, he said that in there. Don't do it. Tell me why. Tell me what I'm doing wrong. And I mean, that's kind of the same. I would have the same argument. Yeah, tell me what I'm doing wrong. You don't like it. You don't like it. I mean, we can agree to disagree. You know, I don't have a problem with that. But I do want to throw this out there, and I've kind of not wanted to throw this out there because I haven't wanted to let on to this. But when you thumbs down a video, it actually doesn't count any differently than a thumbs up, because apparently Google's algorithm looks at the interaction and not the intention of it. Like, so if you thumbs up or thumbs down a video, Thunderfoot did something on that, where he basically had everybody and his grandmother thumbs down a video, and it had the same effect as doing a thumbs up. Like, it didn't make any difference. So I really kind of didn't want to say anything about it. about that because I figured I'd just let the haters do the thumbs down. In fact, doing nothing is harmful, more harmful than giving it a thumbs up or down, because apparently to Google's algorithm it shows interest. And if it shows interest, it's actually helping you, which explains why you can have videos with like 100,000 thumbs down that are top ranking, because there's interest, you know, negative interest, but there's interest. So, I say, honestly, do whichever one you want. It actually helps. So, thumbs down, thumbs up. I don't know. It's just sort of the, I don't know, the notion that it's happening. So it is funny. I mean, watch Thunderfoot's video. He totally did it. He's like, he has, 600,000 subscribers. He's got a lot of subscribers, and he did this whole thing. He's like, okay, in the beginning, he explained, okay, what I want you to do now is don't put any thumbs ups or down on the video. And then he's like, okay, now I want everybody to put thumbs downs or thumbs downs in the video. And then the video had like 100,000 thumbs downs or something like that. And then he was apparently tracking it and all that kind of stuff. And it effectively did the same thing as 100,000 thumbs up on the subsequent video. You're not no interaction is hurting. Thumbs up or downs actually count the same. All right, so I'm going to change some bits in the code, okay, on this side of the display. So I'm in Atmel Studio right now, and I don't know if you can see that. Can it be seen? I should probably zoom into the display. I'm going to change some bits. Exactly. You thumbs up, you thumbs down. It has the same effect, and I think that they don't know that, and they just, I'm hurting you. No, you're helping me. Thanks. So I just have to say thank you for the thumbs up and the thumbs downs. It actually helps YouTube's algorithm show, because apparently it has something to do with interaction rather than whether it was good or bad. It is interaction. So I'm going to change a few bits. All right, so these last two bits over here, I'm sending 1F, because like I said, it's about that. So I'm going to change these to 0, 0, okay? And then reflash the micro. And you'll see these go out. So let's see, we want to start, compile, flashing, and then boop, and you see that went out. So if you noticed, all those segments went out now. So they're all gone, and that was because I changed those bits. Only publicity is no. In YouTube speak, I think that kind of is the norm, right? It's no publicity is bad, because YouTube's algorithm won't put your video on lists for people to suggested lists if there's no activity or no interaction with the people. It just scores very low, and then it just doesn't show up on people's suggested lists or something to that effect. The Thunderfoot did all that analysis. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to send just 0x01, and you'll see one segment over here light up, a single one, just for illustration. Come on, flash, you bloody hell thing. It's blinking. It's probably unhappy. Did I set the wrong thing? I think I set the wrong thing, actually. Here we go. Let's do that one. There you go. See, I have Cal lit now. That's what it is. So now there's Cal lit up on it. So now if I send it a 3, it should light up another one. Bing! So there's your other one. So I'm just simply toggling those bits in the display. And that's pretty much how they are. So now if I wanted to go and fool around with the segments, okay, this display over here that's currently not illuminated because I'm sending it all zeros. Let's say I send that a 3 to that one. See now how I have those two segments lit up? So that's pretty much what we're looking at. That's how it works. So you have to map them all out. And I think the only way to try to map out every bit on this side of the display, and there's a couple over here on the bottom. The way I can illuminate everything is just set all the bits to FF. So if I go ahead and set a few to FF and all the packets to FF, you'll see everything on the display illuminate every segment. So not FFF, great day. That will overflow and not work. So we're going to go FF, just a few more bits to change, or bytes rather, I'm sorry, not bits. All right, so let's see, that FF, let's compile it. Now the whole bloody display should light up like a Christmas tree. There you go. Everything is on now. So the whole thing is just lit up. Everything is lit up now. So, yeah, no, it'll just be all lit up. So, yeah, but you can see all of them are lit up. You know, that's pretty much it. I have to map all of this stuff into some real code that I can basically go through and figure out how many bars. Because I was looking at that. There's 2 meters on here, and I can turn off the scales independently on this display. So there's, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 bars on these two meters, because you got the SWR and you got the RF meter, and there's two meters. So, anyways, yeah. So, I don't know. Questions? What you mean, like over here? That's what I got over there now. I can change it right now. I mean, let's see. When I'm sending it to it right now, I can change that. Like for instance, that Cobra 29. Like let's change the B to a C. So it'll be. Here we go. That'll be 43. There you go. I'll change one letter in here to a C. And see now it says Cobra. It says Cobra 29. So anyway, yeah, having a bit of fun. So yeah, I can make this say anything I want. I have to go, obviously, look at a table and. But yeah, I mean, this is a total blank slate. I can add whatever I want to that. I can do whatever I want. I don't know what symbols I can send to it. Like, I don't know what the character set is. I haven't figured out if there is a command to change the font. I suppose I could send it an extended character and see, or let's send it a tilde or something like that. So 7E would be a tilde. Let's see if it'll draw a tilde. So I'll put a 7E here. And a tilde should appear down here. Nope, it's an arrow. So that should tell me what character set they're using, because it actually made an arrow instead of a tilde. So now there's an arrow there. How would it be live frequency? You would take your frequency counter data and wash it through your microcontroller, and then simply take the numbers and draw them up there. But you would have to have a counter module in the radio. Yes, you would have to. The radio does not have a built-in counter. You would have to build the counter. You could use a microcontroller and a timer, a couple of timers, and simply just count. You can get some fairly good resolution out of a counter on a micro. Prescale it a little bit so that you could get probably a good 6-digit counter. I mean, you could go crazy and do 8 digits. But if you put a frequency counter in the radio, you wouldn't have any of this more nonsense wrong counter. But yes, you would have to have a frequency counter. You'd have to implement one. You know, the only thing I'm doing right now is completely stepping on the bus and sending it my own data, which is pretty much why you would have to sit in between the micro in this radio and this data stream, which is going to be a little bit tricky. Can you use a Ranger counter module? The problem with the Ranger counter module is the Ranger counter module drives the digits directly. So you could take that data and wash it through a micro. Exactly. This has a use for DEFCON there, like you said, because he converts radios like this to New Zealand. You would totally want to change that data on the display to match exactly. You could do that, and that would make the radios. Hell, I mean, I think that would probably be, you know, up your alley. There's 2 decimal points that are on here. Incidentally, some of you may remember when I tore this thing down initially, but there's 2 decimal points over here. This thing's acting weird. What did I do? I've got an L. Why am I getting a Cobra? What am I sending in the beast position? Probably am sending an L. It should be a 42. Oh, I put a 4C. No wonder. There's a Cobra. Let's fix the word Cobra. There we go. Now it's a B. There's 2 decimal points over here that are controllable. So you could actually have 2 counters because they do have 2 decimal points. They're fixed in position. But those decimal points are controlled by the same bits that drive this display, because the bits that light up these individual segments also light up 2 decimal points over here and 2 mem and WX exclamation point little symbols. So there's 4 of them over here that are controlled in the same data that this is controlled by. So these decimal points can be turned on or off, but they are fixed in their locations. So, but there's 3 digits in front of each one. So you could have 2 counters. That makes things a little bit interesting. So I'm wondering about if you can obtain these display modules to use for other things. An entire library is going to have to be built for the display. Oh, I see the lights blinking. We've got some rain, and I hope the lights don't, you know, blink out. Oh, because there's thunder. Uh-oh. Oh, you probably heard that. We're having a storm. I should probably check, because storms in this part of the country can actually be very violent. So I'm just going to look real quick just to make sure that it's not something that I should pay attention to. I do have on here somewhere I thought a weather radar thing, but it's probably on my tablet. Yes. That was a pretty big thunderclap. The storms could be very violent here. This is an area of the country where we can get tornadoes and other things like that. They could be very violent. So when it starts, it's something that you have to kind of pay a little bit of attention to. Yeah. And I'm looking at the radar images now, and it's looking like it's probably going to be a little bit of a whopper here in a little bit. It's closing in. So it looks like it's moving pretty quickly, so yeah, it'll be all right. It's not going to be doesn't look like it's going to be a particularly bad one. They'll put out warnings, and my phone will go crazy, and you know, there'll be a warning. And we got a weather radio, except I don't think the weather radio feature is probably working on this right now because I've got it all disabled to death. So, and it's no speaker, we wouldn't hear it. But yeah, presumably the weather alert would go off, and I have had a weather radio like this up here before, when the weather alert's gone off on it, and it's freaking loud because it's that bong, you know, that tone. It's loud. Happened in the middle of the night, and there was a CB sitting here, and I didn't turn it off, and the weather tone. They trigger the weather. They send a tone out that triggers these radios, and they blare. So, anyways, yeah. As far as the display, we can send whatever we want. We can control whatever we want. We can send whatever we want. The idea is to let the radio have control over the S meters and the other functions, but take control of the 7-segment display and the alpha. And then control those. So, yeah. I mean, I hear it's starting to rain more and more and more. I saw one of the red areas is sort of turn a little purple heading right for us. So, what's going to happen is it's probably going to get really loud for a very short time because it wasn't a particularly big cell. And there'll be lightning and thunder, and the lights may blink or go out or something like that. So if the stream goes poop, it's probably because the power went out. So the UPS, I have a UPS on the computer under this bench. There we hear. I hear it. May be able to hear the thunder out there. The crashes and whatnot. So it's coming. So a whole library has to be written for this. And the idea really is to intercept the data, wash it through a microcontroller, change the bits that we want to change, and then feed that data packet back out to the display. An example of a microcontroller that would be perfect for this task, incidentally, would be an ATmega 328. What you would do is you would tie a PC into a pin change interrupt on a negative going pulse or negative going waveform on the latch line. There's a strobe line or latch line. Yeah, we're about to get socked. So we're about to get whacked. So you would monitor the strobe. When it goes low, you want to start gobbling up the data, taking that data and storing the packets, and then you would go into those packets, change the bits that you want to change, and then retransmit the packets out of another set of GPIOs, and you need 4 of them. So once you're done changing the packets, you drop your low. You're depending on what kind of packet it is. If it's a command packet, you drop your command line, your strobe, fire the data in, and so on and so forth off to the display. So you have to sit in between them. That's one way to do it. You can completely take over the function of the display, but if you want to preserve the radio's functionality, that really wouldn't be what you would want to do, because you want the radio to be able to send the S-meter data. And that's the part of it that I kind of need to figure out, is what bits do the S-meter data. You have to send the entire data packet. You can't just send a packet for just change this piece. You can with an alpha display, but for this side, no. You got to send the entire thing at once. That's the nuisance right there. The whole thing has to be sent at one time because it's one command and it's looking for exactly that amount of data. If you don't send all of the data, which I've tried to cheat and just send one piece of it, it will not work at all. It just simply, I think it's looking for a fixed length of data. Rumble. It's looking for a fixed length, and it's actually not common to get thunderstorms here on the 7th of February. It's because it's the winter, but it's also fairly warm here. It's for the Fahrenheit people, it's 61 or 16. So yeah. So right, that's exactly why the packets were so large. Yeah, it's a big storm. They got some pretty big cells making a beeline for us. But then they'll go by and we'll probably be okay, unless they sometimes tend to pop back up. I don't think we're not on a warning, because if we were on a warning, my phone would have chimed or said something. I could look at weather.com and see if they might not have issued a warning. They might have issued what they like to call a watch, which doesn't make your phone buzz, but a warning does. We don't have any warnings or watches. It's just no. They probably don't think it'll be serious enough. But anyway, so yes, you have to send the whole packet. That's why the packets were so large. Correct. It's just they have to send. You have to send all of this data. Yeah. It can be really bad. We can get really big wind with big wind gusts and things like that. Wow. 40. Wow. I bet you guys are probably clamoring to find some air conditioning. Man, 40. That's hot. It will get up to about that here in the summer on some days, and it will be humid. It will be a 100% humidity, 40 degrees, which they call that, they put out what they would call a special weather advisory, and they basically say, if you're elderly or a child, stay inside, because it's simply too hot and too humid to possibly be outside. And then you have the smog, because I am in a capital city, so we also have the smog factor as well. So then you have the smog thing. You have a smog warning because it's pollution. And then they'll basically say, if you have respiratory issues, you're elderly, you're a child, stay inside and don't come out for like a week. It could be that bad. So other than that, 104. We can have 104, 106 Fahrenheit. I think last year we had a couple of 106 Fahrenheit days for a week straight. Yes. Yeah, that's right, because you guys called them cyclones in the southern hemisphere and they're hurricanes in the northern hemisphere. We had 2 of them skip off of the coast. This last year I had to get a tree cut down in the back garden because it got sort of blown over last year after we had the one storm. For those of you who don't live in the States, we actually went through a very, very... I don't remember what that was last... It wasn't this last year, was it this last year? We had the floods. You can tend to find them on YouTube. Look right quick and see if I find one. Let's see what I can search for. Look for, it was 2015. You look for Columbia, South Carolina flood. It was 4 October 2015. It was called the 1,000-Year Flood, and there was so much rain. They had, I want to say they had 50, 75 dams break in the Columbia area. There's a lot of streams and waterways and ponds and things like that. They had like 50, 75 dams break and flooded the city. Here where I am, we had no electricity, no water for... Power was restored fairly quickly here. Then we ended up on the boil water deal and the water pressure was like really low. Like you turn on the faucet and it was a little stream. It would take you like several minutes to fill up a glass with water, and then it started to turn like a very murky color because what had happened is they have a canal where they get the water from out of the river, and the canal was breached and flooded the water treatment facilities. So yeah, we had a water problem. It was bad. They were having to find out what to do with the hospitals. They have hospitals in the downtown the fire brigade was going and filling up huge pools of water in front of the hospitals. They were having to truck it in to keep the hospital's coolers running. It was pretty bad. So anyways, so has anybody got any curiosities? They want to see anything about this display? Any more questions about it? If you're interested in getting together, if we get a bunch of people together and sort of crowd hack at this thing a little bit, if anyone's interested, let me know. We'll figure something out. Melbourne at 35. Yeah, that's pretty hot. But yeah, no, I need to make a trip. One of the places I want to go visit. I've got a lot of places I want to go visit. I want to go see the Viking ship in Stockholm. They have a Viking ship. I want to see the Viking ship. That'd be pretty cool. So I want to go to Sweden and see the Viking ship. I want to definitely, ask a question. No questions are stupid questions. At least we hope. Ask away. Ask away. If you want to see something, I can show it again. It's not a problem. I've got time. So, if there's some question you have about what's going on here, ask away. I'll, I can, accommodate. This is all in good fun, so don't worry about it. Ask your question. Not very good with using a touchpad, but I wanted to change all those to zeros to shut that display off. So, boink. Turn off the display all at once. I like that. Yes, this is a hack friendly. The Bearcat 980 is not hack friendly. The Bearcat 980 is a worthless endeavor. This is totally doable. Magnum 1 radio. I think I've seen it. I'd be curious to have a look at it too. But yes, this is totally doable. I can change this display to have anything I want written on it. I have full control over every segment on the display. The command structure on this display is just as weird as hell, but I have full control over it. And I can simply power down my microcontroller, and the radio will reassert itself. If I change the channel, the radio will actually, yeah, see, there it goes. So now the radio has reasserted itself. And it's displaying whatever it wants to display. It's a little glitchy because I've got all these data buses connected to my micro, so there's noise getting in the data bus. But yeah, I've asserted control over it. And there we go. Yeah, so it's totally controllable by me. I've pretty much full control. So sometimes it gets glitched, which right now it looks like it's gotten glitched. So the only way to fix the glitch is to power it down. Like right now, I couldn't draw anything on the display, so it just got glitched. And I still can't, so I didn't power it down long enough. You can get the display to lock up where it will not update anymore. And that's because I've got the micro in this radio trying to control it, and I'm trying to control it with this at the same time, and you can throw some bad commands at it, and the display will be totally out of sync and will not accept any new commands. So, yeah, it's still glitching, but it is working for the most part. So let's see. Let's undo that. Let's send that to the display. Yeah, see, it's not working right. It's still glitched. But that's the problem with having both things on the bus at the same time. Is let's see, where's my why is this behaving? Okay, so we got FFs. All right, so that should light everything up. It's not working. It's just completely frigging glitched. Yeah, it's all weirded out. It's glitched. Still, it seems to take a little bit of time for this display to sort of unglitch itself. All right, so there we go. We might be unglitched now. No, we're still not well, are we? There we go. Now we're unglitched. So now I have control over it again. Yeah. No, because the frequency counter, you would need a frequency counter. That's not to say that I can't implement the frequency counter. It's doable. It would be an external module. These boards, I have a port on here, and this port would allow me to implement the frequency counter. I have a SPI port on here, so I could implement a counter, sort of little board that would plug into this, in theory. It would work. I could do it. So, yeah, totally doable. Just a matter of, doing it, and then I could write whatever I want. So yes, I guess you could implement a counter, but you would have to implement the counter. There's no counter in the radio. None of that exists. That would all have to be done. Correct. That's correct. You have offsets. It would be less than trivial, right? It would totally be done in software. You would know the radio is transmitting because there's a TX RX on here that you could monitor and say, oh, the radio is transmitting. I need to do offsets. Because it's 455 kilohertz, high or low, I can't recall. I think low from transmit. So I think it's 455 kilohertz lower. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but it is 455 kilohertz. And this radio does essentially have the same PLL as a regular 29. The goal would be, if I was to really get into this, is to preserve the display so that all the other widgets work, and simply seize control of the alphanumeric portion of it and the channel number. The only problem with this is that this is only capable of going from 0 to 99 because there's no negatives or anything like that. So, that's the only problem, because it's only two segments. If there was 3, it would be interesting, but no, they only needed 2, so of course they only made a display with 2. I would love to get my hands on this module alone, but this module, I don't know who makes it. It does have some identifying marks on it, but I can't figure out the manufacturer of the display. It's definitely a custom, and it is not the display is not shaped like this. It is actually a rectangular display. This is actually not screwed in, so I can show all those lights, man, are bright. Boy, are they ever. But you can see that it is a rectangular display. They just don't have anything on the corners that are sort of cut off. So that's bright. Wow, is that ever bright. This is a little tricky to get on and off because of the mic jack. The only way to remove the mic jack is to remove all the wires and then pull it out because it goes out through the front. It's kind of a nuisance. So otherwise I would have totally removed the faceplate. So, and gotten it out of the way. Because all I did for now was just tape it up so that I didn't really, scratch it up. Because, I had this on the other next to the computer and I'm dragging it around the bench, and soldering stuff to it and doing all that wonderful weird stuff. So, anyway, the backlight controller is handled by the onboard micro. I haven't figured out how to send contrast data. I haven't even bothered to sniff that. I have a feeling that that's 7130, 145, 104, MM55, 104, and NM6040. I haven't had a chance to play around with 7130s and SM5104s and so on and so forth, PLLs. I do not have any of radios that use those PLLs. No, that's fine. I don't have any of those PLLs. If someone can tell me, preferably sideband radios that use those PLLs, because the reason sideband radios is because it's typically more difficult to implement the sideband radios. Then the AM variants just sort of fall in place. But one of the ones that I know that I'm hardcore into right now is the 2824 face lock loops. Once I get done with the 140, which is basically what's in this radio, once I get this working good, I definitely will be on another one because I'm going to be searching for another one at that point. The 8719s are pretty much, done deals. I can switch those out 6 ways to Sunday. No problem. O2As and 858s and those things, which are, for those who don't know, is an 858, big chunky PLL. Those don't need swapping because, this is capable of, it's BCD, 399 channels. O2As are, like 8 bits, 9 bits, something like that. I think they have a BCD mode and they have a binary mode, from what I understand. The O2As. So, those are, ultimate, lots of channels on those as well that can be obtained. These ones, the 850 2824s, this is using the same PLL in a different package, which is basically one of these. This is, I've got prototypes on the way. If they work, they won't be prototypes anymore. So, that'll be great to get those done, and I'll move on to the next, weird and wonderful thing, which could be one of those that you ask about, the 7130 and friends. I think there's more than the 7130. I think there's a whole family of those. 7130, 7131, I think is a similar one. I have a TC. What's in the Cobra 25? I thought that was going to be the next one I played with. Incidentally, is the Cobra 25. It's the one that's about the size of like an 8719 like this. I think it's a little longer. Maybe there's additional 4 pins or something like that. 145 109. Yes. The 145 109, if it is the same. The 190 109 is the next one that I'm going to probably play with, because I've started getting radios with that PLL on it. I'm sorry, what is a TC 9106 with him? The 9109? Okay. I've started getting radios with that PLL, 25s. That's going to be the next hack project, probably. Is those ones in the 25. Once I pretty much get through this, although this one right now has piqued my curiosity for the simple reason that the display can be altered. So I'm really probably going to end up prototyping something for this because of it. You know, I'm going to end up prototyping something here for this. It's too interesting to pass up. You know what I mean? To play with this. It's too interesting to pass up. When I get the boards to do the PLL, I should be able to use the existing board. It looks like it pins the same from the what you call it, the 2824. They just, instead of a wide package, they use a narrow package. I thought you were doing that for 148. I didn't know you were doing that for the 25 and the 29. I really didn't. So, yeah. Slant face Sears Road Talkers. Well, what are the selfish reasons? I mean, okay, I think you did say that, and now that I think about it, I think I recall you saying that. That was just convenience. You know, you had it, so you figured, what the hell. And it was easier probably to get it working in the 148, you know, versus the 29 initially anyway. Right, it just makes no sense to not use the work on the 148. I mean, I agree. You got it. You might as well use it. So you're adapting those to, or adapting them to New Zealand frequencies. I think that's your goal. You're trying to get to the FCC and New Zealand bands, if I'm not mistaken. I probably have asked that before, and it's just a whoosh. But yeah, you know, it would have been interesting if we ran into each other before I started this whole sort of endeavor, and I'll tell you why. Because the reason that I started doing these things is, you know, because I wanted to do it differently, and I wanted to do it, I guess, for the lack of a better way of explaining it, my way. And I actually wanted to do it as a project and include other people. The initial incarnations, or at least initial calls for something like this, were actually to try to find other people who were interested. And I had a few people who were interested in doing a collaboration, and it turned into this, I'll only show you yours if you show me mine, even though what I wanted to do was put all of the code on GitHub and just say, here you go, it's there. You know, you can commit code, I can commit code, and everybody's happy, and this is sort of a joint development thing. You just let people get it. Turned into this whole, but I want this, and I want that, and I want, and said, okay, I'm just going to do it myself then. Nobody wanted to play nice, and it was rather upsetting. And I have a feeling that, for example, like with the 170. You know, I didn't have a problem with that. I mean, it was sort of, well, here's the code I wrote. You know, I think that would have been something that, I don't think you were that way. I think you would have probably been just fine. But, you know, it's not I didn't want it to be a mine. You know what I mean? I wanted it to be a public project. But it turned into a the discussion just went somewhere I didn't want it to go. It's like, I just want to put it up there and let everybody have at it. And it turned into a complete just, but I want credit for it. Well, who cares? Authors in the header of the codes, written by so-and-so, written by so-and-so. There's your credit. Oh, I wanted to, forget it. It just isn't worth it, Some people you just can't work with. Some people just want too much, and I think that's what I ran into with stuff like this. It's just, okay, I just gave up. So I did it myself. But I'm still open to doing something like that, which is why I keep saying it. If anyone's interested, I mean, if you're a software developer and, you got one of these things and you mind tearing it apart, because I can tell you now, this radio probably is not going to survive. I'm probably going to blow it up. But, hey, a Sears Mint new old stock slant face. You know what? And you're right, because that was one of the biggest things. I want to sell it. Okay, sell it. But if it's available for anybody to make it, 95% of the people who do this stuff, they're not going to be able to produce it. How many people can produce this? Seriously, how many people can do this? How many? I work in teams now. Working in teams is basically the only way to really do it is right. Heard some noise outside, but it's raining out there. Anyway, so working in teams. Basically, what it turns out to, the way it ends up is, hey, you work on, say, I/O. Write the I/O code. I'll write the display code. Okay, we got those. We put them together. We make that work. Okay, now we got to work on other things to interface to do other things. Group project where that's the problem. And you are also correct. You need people who are not concerned with pride, ego, or profit. I didn't do this for profit. I have a day job. He has. He has. That's why I say I don't think that we have a problem. That me and him would probably be a pretty good fit, because we've collaborated quite extensively on some of this stuff, even without realizing it. Like I said, when I was doing this, it would have been great because I did this all by myself. I didn't have any help, and I was kind of looking for, anybody who was interested in doing it, and nobody cared. It turned into this, whole I want credit centric thing, and I mean, it's just like, well, the credit comes from, having your name in the header of source code. That's the credit. Oh, well, I want basically banners and blimps to have my name on them. What do you think this is, It turned into this. It just went the wrong way. But yes, we've collaborated on this stuff. He's sitting here and throwing suggestions out. Yes, it's been very, it's been kind of what I wanted to, what I wanted it to be. And it really takes the right kind of mindset to work on stuff like this 29, for example. You know how many people are going to contact me? I'm going to get people who are going to contact me. The conversation's going to go like this. Send me your code. Okay. Here it is. It's public. I don't care about it. Then I'll get an email like a week later. When are you going to finish it? Well, the whole idea of a collaboration is that you were going to contribute to this as well. So when are you going to have commit some to this? It turns into a very one-sided thing where I'm getting asked for my changes and I'm not getting any. It's one way. That happens so much. It's just like, no, it's one way. I'm giving you code. You're not sharing anything with me. There's nothing there. If you put it on GitHub, it turns into a whole bunch of forks. which is fine if you're going to open source stuff, and then you can, you can pull in people's changes. But I don't know. There's too many people with too big of egos in this, and so it's pretty much an unfortunate thing, because I, for a long time, was contributing to open source software, and I would still like to make this one open source, just because, well, I think it would be a fun project. I think Cobra would hate it. Because there's countermeasures in here. They've done some things. Exactly. And people want they want like a big huge banner with, yeah, I did this, I helped with this. No. I know a lot of people who, and this is the thing, I know a lot of people who have a lot of passion that would love to get in something like this, but they don't know. They don't have the soft. This is going to be like mostly software. Hardware is going to be, the counter is going to be hard. I'll probably, if I do a counter, that one's going to be the hard part. It's simple, but it's hard. Getting those things right, getting them accurate, doing the computations for like a time base, that's going to be interesting. Yeah, but people want, like Peter put it the right way, people want their name in lights, and this is not their name in lights. What would end up happening is, okay, I want the software to read my name when people turn up their radios. Why? I don't want it to have, I don't want my name on, I put my name on there, but just because, it was a gimmick, but I do that. It's not going to have my name. I don't want my name on people's radios when they turn it on. I don't want that. I don't even really, a splash screen is nice. Hey, you have such and such thing in your radio. The name of whatever the product is. That goes away. It flashes it up there, stays there for 2 seconds, and goes away. I don't mind a splash screen, but maybe a software version or something that's there that'd be helpful. Okay, what software version is it, kind of thing. But F8, FI for PIC 16. I don't really do things in PICs, but I can. I'd have to Google that one. F8FI. I never heard of it. Let's just get a Google thing going here. Frequency counter with PIC 4 and 5-digit LED display. Frequency range 1 hertz to 50 megahertz. Worked up to 60 PICs timing specifications, well, it certainly would. Yeah, I get it. Okay. I get it. Yeah, counters are not all that difficult in the grand scheme of things. I would really like a 6-digit counter. That's just me. If I do it, I'll probably implement it as a 6-digit counter. Yeah, like I said, it's just my thing. Implement it as a 6-digit counter. Atmel's, let me tell you now, the AVRs, the GPIO frequency responses for shit. You can do it, but it's like a couple of megahertz tops, so you have to pre-scale it. A PIC is a better counter, which is why you see all these people making counters with PICs, because it's a better chip to make a counter. And if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it on a PIC. It's a better, yeah. K7SCE. Where is the sevens? I used to know where all those areas where the sevens are. Yes, I have a call sign. Yes, I have a license. I am sort of one of those grandfather generals, because I did the 13 word per minute code test. I was probably, I never went past general. And that was like 20 years ago. It was in the 90s that I got general, and I did the 13 word code test, because I used to do, I've showed my my paddles. I used to do 10 meter CW. all the time, and I really liked it. I always had a problem. I never went past. I never went past general. What was it? Advanced? They did away with, I think. Um, um, yeah, the Arduino would the thing about frequency counters and and AVRs and microcontrollers. You need to square up that wave. Like, you need to take that sine wave, you need to square that sucker up real good, and you have to make it really big. There can't be any misfiring, so you have to make that thing really big. So if your micro is running at 3.3 volts, you want to make that sucker 3.3 volts if you can. You want to make it really big, and you want to make it really square. And you want rise and fall to be really sharp. So you want to square that thing up as much as you possibly can. So you want to pre-scale it, you want to do all kinds of wonderful weird processing to the waveform. You want to square it up real good, because if there's any jitter in it, it has to be really clean before you put it into your timer or your counter input on your microcontroller. So it's going to count and then overflow, and then however long it took, you're going to do your little math, and then you're going to, have your frequency. But you got to make that thing really squared up. Yeah, you have to square it up really good. And an AVR, you have to pre-scale. I have some of those pre-scalers around here somewhere. In fact, this radio is probably not going to be too difficult to do a counter, because really, when you think about it, you totally could count FN and derive your frequency for your counter on that. You totally could, couldn't you? I didn't think about that. You take FN from your PLL and you count that. That's running at 1-2 megahertz. That should be good enough that you don't have to pre-scale it. Cuts down on the components, because pre-scalers, some of them are not cheap. And you use that. Yeah, I think you could probably get away with counting, and then do the math on it. Okay, it's this frequency plus this, is going to be your output frequency on the radio. It's going to be where you are. That would totally work, I think. I like that idea, actually. I always measured VCO, and on like 148s and Friends, VCO is 36 megahertz. You have to pre-scale that to dump it into an AVR. This won't count that. So yeah, I suppose. Right. I guess you would have to. Yeah, you would have to count it the other way. Oh well, it was a good thought. So, anyways, I guess the long and the short of it is this. This project is, it's going somewhere. So for those who are, right, it's going somewhere. So, if you're interested and you don't want your name in frickin', signs, hit me up. If you're not interested and you just want glory, I'm not in for glory. I don't give a damn about glory. It's just one of those things. Let's see if it turned it out. Yep, turned out the display. So we're not glitched. I was just checking to see if this thing had glitched. Yeah, neon. Here's the thing. You put on your little boards, 74HC, downside you had to select. Yes, that would be fine. I don't know that that's really a downside. In this case, it would be fixed, so, I think it would be fine. I think it would be fixed in this case, because, we're going to count a certain range, and we're not going to go much beyond it. We're going to stay within a couple of megahertz, so I think that we would be fine with, I don't know, I'll look at his project. The only problem with it is, if his project is, yeah, I don't know. Sideband radios are getting, like, if we go to Uniden, for example, I go over here to Uniden. Uniden. We'll just hit enter on that in the Google monster. Uniden America. Two-way radios, automotive CB radios. They have CB radios under automotive. Okay. What do we have for? We have 13. They have 13 radios. Okay. Truckers CB, PC78, LTX, PC68, PC78 Limited, Bearcat 880, PC787, with a wireless microphone, Pro 510. They're still selling Pro 510s. Wow. Bearcat 680, Bearcat 880. None of these are sideband radios. Bearcat Pro 520, Bearcat 980. It's their only sideband radio. And Uniden website, $189.99, $190 US. The only sideband radio that Uniden makes is the 980, and the 980 is pretty much a waste of freaking time. So, there's kind of the problem right there. They're not really that good. So this is why, you see me with a lot of 148s and things like that, because they really did the 148s pretty good. Right, and these ones are not that bad, actually. The pots on this are not that bad. They are metal pots. They're screwed into a metal frame, so they're pretty good. The encoder on this is, in fact, the encoder that's on this radio is, I can see it. It's the same encoder that I've got right here. It's the same encoder, except theirs is the knurled split shaft, and mine is this. This one is a keyed, D shaft. This is the same encoder that's in this radio. I mean, this is a shorter version of it, but yeah, it's the same encoder. I mean, and those are Borns. They're not bad encoders. They're okay. I know some people do not like encoders, but yeah. So, working on radios, older radios, yeah, I think that's kind of the problem. These are, I want to say they're momentary. Yeah, I think they're momentary. They're momentary. This state machine, quadrature. So if I measure this encoder, I shouldn't have any, it should appear like an open. Yeah, see, these are, if I can get a hold of it, yeah, see, it's open, because they're just momentary. So, assuming that most of you guys, I'm guessing that Idle 2600 here knows Huawei. They do bounce. These are not optical; they're mechanical. So if you were to open it up, you'll see the wafer and the disc and things like that in there. They're not optical. Bouncing is one of those things that I don't have a problem with. I've accommodated for that in software. So if you look at like these boards, and well, not really these, but like these, there's no components on it because I don't have any caps, or I have pull-up resistors. That's it. They're on this board. There are these three resistors, in fact, over here. Those are the pull-ups for the encoder. I don't have any caps. I don't need any RC filtering. I've handled all of that. I use timers for polling encoders. I do not use interrupts. You know, momentaries are definitely easier. I don't use interrupts. I use timers. I just poll the GPIO, get the state of the pins, and you know, do my computation from there. Yeah, so 2510, I've got a few of those around here. I've got one sitting up here that one of these days I'm going to repair it. I actually piled up a whole bunch of chip tubes. I've got tubes of chips piled up on top of it. But yeah, I've got a 2510 sitting up here. That one of these days I am going to fix. Okay, and here it is. 12510. And in this 2510 is one of those. It's a chip switch. I've actually got two of them with chip switches. And the chip switches are like unobtainium right now. I don't know, I had a harebrained idea that I was going to try to figure it out how to do a chip switch or how to make my own, but I said, no, I'm not going to be bothered with it, and I just didn't get bothered with it. I knocked the camera. Sorry about that. No, interrupts are, here's the problem with interrupts, for those who don't know when you're dealing with encoders. When you're sitting here and you're spinning this encoder and you're interrupting that micro and that micro is stepping through your code and it stops right there. You could be in the middle of transmitting bit bang data to a component and you just threw the timings completely out. You may have just locked up that external peripheral, sent it some gibberish. So yeah, spinning your encoder and having it interrupt, no. Interrupts are really not good for user interface stuff. I abhor using interrupts for user interface stuff. I've known people who have taken an interrupt for a button. You know, no, don't do that. Is the button an on-off button? Well, no, then don't do it. On-off buttons are probably okay, but I don't use interrupts for hardly anything. The code that runs on these, there's no interrupts. I don't use them. I don't really. Well, let me rephrase that. There are interrupts. They're timer interrupts. So when you got a counter and the counter counts down and you hit a value, you overflow the counter, boom, you trigger an interrupt. All the interrupt does is set a flag that the main loop looks at and says, oh, it's time to update the display. So, okay, the display update, we run through the display update routine and we update the display. So I'm updating the display, you know, maybe 60, 100 times, you know, a second. But I'm not tying up on this, I'm not tying up the MCU with doing display updates. So the display updates and I'm done with it. You know, when I want to pull the encoder, I'm pulling the encoder at, I don't know, it's usually several kilohertz. You know, so it's pulling the encoder. Is it moving? Is it changing? Whatever. Do the computation. Which way did it go? Did it go up? Did it go down? You know, so on and so forth. So, yes, there's interrupts, but they're timers. They're all timer interrupts. And I'm using two of them. And I think that chip has four timers. I think there's 3 8-bit timers and a 16-bit timer. The 2510, many years ago, I figured out how to modify the PLL on that to get it to go down to 12 meters with the chip switch. Many, many, many years ago. Yeah, interrupts are a lot of the Arduino. I'm not trying to poo-poo on Arduino people, but they love interrupts. Everything that people do with them is interrupts, and they wonder why it's so slow, or why it glitches on you or bugs out. The interrupts can cause you lots of pain. because the time that it takes to service an interrupt, your CPU is not doing anything. You have to use interrupts to cast for serial data. There's really no ifs, ands, or buts. I will not do serial data without using an interrupt. You're absolutely correct. I will not use a SPI without an interrupt, because if I'm talking to a slave, the slave is sending me a packet of data. I need to process that packet of data when I'm getting it. So you must stop what you're doing, but your code obviously has to account for the fact that, like for example, if I'm in the middle of a display update and I get packet, I don't want the display to be half drawn. That wouldn't be very good. I'm using an external driver for the display, so that's really actually not a problem, provided I'm not in the middle of transmitting the data. But since I'm using SPI to transmit the data, I can fire the packet off to it. And I know that since I've offloaded the packet to the SPI hardware, that I'm good. I don't have to worry about that, because the SPI hardware, the SPI peripheral in the micro will transmit the data, regardless of what the CPU is doing it. Once it gets into the SPI peripheral, it's transmitting it. So you're fine with interrupts on that kind of thing. But when you're bit banging things, like this uses SPI for the display driver, it uses I2C for the I/O expander. The hardware peripherals are fine. If the data packet gets into the register, it's going to transmit it. You're generally good. So interrupts for serial comms and the like are just fine. I just am not a fan of encoders, buttons, things like that. Now, here's a case for interrupts on an encoder. Your encoder is running at a very high rate of speed, like a motor. You kind of need interrupts for that, because the faster it's going, you're going to start, when you use a timer, you're going to miss steps. So if you need your encoder to be precision, like you need to count every single tick, you need an interrupt. That's true. But other than that, no interrupts. I'm not really a big fan of them. There are right uses in my opinion, and there are wrong uses. Right would be like idle 2600 said, which would be serial data, RS-232, whatever your UARTs you're doing, RS-232, SPI, I2C, whatever, good. Encode, band and channeled, converted to encode, yeah. That's right, because you wanted to display bands. You wanted to push the knob in and turn it to change bands, which is a pretty novel approach to doing it, because you wanted to go with whatever bands. That would be one way to do it. Push it, hold it, turn it, display changes to reflect your band. That's good stuff. I like it. It's hey, I think that's great. That's perfect for me. That would be fine for me. Push it, hold it, change it to change the band or whatever it is, or if you long press it to change your, because I think if I remember right, you wanted to long press it to change the steps, because you wanted to do like 5, 10, whatever kilohertz steps, because the 145, 170 will certainly do it. It's a very versatile chip. When you want to play around with the BU2630, I can send you some code for that too. Because that one is actually, the data sheet, you might not get it at first. So, menu, that's right, you wanted to have menus. Menus on, let me tell you this, menus on a 3-digit display are hard because you have a 7-segment display that you have 3 digits. You have and you have a limited number of letters that you can draw. You're gonna find out that you're gonna have one letter and one number. So you can draw a B and a number, B1, B2, B3. Yeah, you're right. But you know what it is? If you're trying to keep a stock look, with a 2-digit display, you don't have a whole lot of choice. You got that's your constraint. That's what you have to work with. You did mention 3-digit displays. If you want, I can point you at some sellers who sell 3-digit displays that work in the radios that are the right size. I don't know if you have found the displays that you want to use. If you haven't, I can send you links to what I've been getting that fit in these radios. You've already got it? Okay. So you're good then. Point 36 inch, I believe. Yes. And I'm very bad at writing instructions. So, yeah, point 36. Yeah, you can get A, B, C, D, E, F. You can get P. You might be able to get a lower R. I think you can pull off a lower R. An S, really, not really. A T is out. You can get a U. V is out. W is no way. X is out. Y ain't going to happen. Z is not going to happen. Yeah, N's, O's. Number zeros, obviously. How can you get a T? You can get a lower T, can't you? You're right. No, that wouldn't be a T. That would look like a C. How would you get a T? Yeah, I don't know. How do you get a T? You piqued my curiosity. How would you draw a T? A T, where is the 7-segment display? I got one around here somewhere. Damn it. How am I going to get a T out of it? All this stuff around here and I got no 7-segment display handy. Ain't that great? I got to clean up all this paper that came in the random box. Oh, where's my box of bits? Not that box. I had to clean up again, just that quick. I've got this place. Here we go. Alright, so here's a display board. D, E, F, and G? Yes. C, wait. C. You can get H's. You can get H's. D, E, F, and G. Well, let's see. Where do we start with yeah, you could get it. I guess that would work. Yeah, I guess that would work. Okay. Why isn't, yeah, why, how do you get, I guess if you use, yeah, I guess it would look kind of like a Y. But I don't know, it wouldn't, initially my thought wouldn't be look like a Y, it would look like a 4. A 9, but it would look like a 4. I don't know. I'll have to play with it again. I didn't try to do Ys. I didn't need Ys. 9 with A missing would look like a 4 to me. Oh, no, it wouldn't. You're right. Duh. When sometimes people draw 9s with not the what letter is that? No, they're adding the bottom. It would. Where's my paper? I get what he's. I think I know what he's doing. To make a Y. Yeah, D. Yeah, stay. That ain't gonna stay. As such. I think that's what you mean, right? So it's a 4, and then we've got, yeah, D. So that would be a Y. An H, obviously, you know. Yeah, that would pull off a Y. I do double L like this. It looks on the same digit. It looks like a double L. So you could get two L's. Case in point, I can show this, how I do it. Because some people, they don't quite get it, what it's doing when it has like this double L thing going on. I've had several people that haven't like quite gotten it, that's actually two L's. Like that. That says PLL. So most people don't get that. They don't think that that's two L's, but it's PLL. That's the way I drew PLL on the 3-segment display. So that's like two L's. But how many people would not have realized that those were L's? And obviously the only one that changes on the end is the number. But yeah, most people don't really get that that's actually that's two L's. And that was the way I drew two L's. It works. It works. That's the way I got 3 letters out of it. Yeah. So, let's just pick something. All right. So menus. B and a P. Scan. That's an S and a C. That's brightness, a B and an R. So, yeah. Yeah, the blinky is a home channel. But, yeah. So, those are the letters I used. So, yeah, no A's, none of that. Didn't do any A. But, yeah, you could totally do an A. Yeah, brightness would be that was the BR. Yeah, because that's what I've got here. This is brightness. There's your B and your R. So yeah, there's your B and your R. Well, what I did is no, K, yeah, you can't really get K. You can get upper and lower L's, obviously, or I's, or the thing that I did with the two segments that looks like L, that looks like it's two L's. I forget what people thought that was. Several people have told me what they thought that was, and they didn't think that it was two L's. BP, scan, SCs, BR. I did the home channel as a blink, so I didn't put an H. And the reason being is because you could go negative, you could go to a higher, positive number. So I didn't put an H in it. So I just made it blink. So this is setting the home channel, is when it's flashing. So flashing is setting the home channel, and that was the way I signified is okay. You're setting your home channel. It's flashing, and that's how I did that. So if I wanted it to be that, I just would confirm that, and now it's confirmed. I can go to it. So I used the blink. I could have alternated it, flashed the H and then the number, H and number, H and number, H and number. I suppose I could still do it. I just never really bothered to do it that way. I just figured the flash would kind of be obvious. Okay, I'm working on memories now to implement memories, and that's going to be sort of a push and hold thing for memories. So you push it and hold it to scroll through memories. Yeah. The thing is, the display driver does the flashing in itself. Like, I'm not flashing it. It's built into the display driver. It can do that alternating. Well, it can't do alternating. It can flash, but it can't alternate. I am working on doing the menus differently. I did them that way and because it was simple. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to have it so that you spin through the items and then you push it and then you go and set the value and then you push it again and it goes back to the beginning and basically menu, with sub-menus that return to the root, and then after that you can exit. So I would put an E on there for like exit. So when you scroll to E and boop, out. So E would be the exit of the menu. So I'm working on that firmware update. I just haven't done it. I got to get most of the kinks worked out of the existing firmware. Working on it. But yeah, 2 digits. I never tried it. I'm curious to see how yours turns out because I didn't really do 2 digits. 2 digits would definitely made things a little bit more interesting. Yeah. And that's unfortunate, and I don't know how to really solve that whole, well, it's something that you need to change quickly. Like with scanning, if you need to, scanning something, I don't know. It really just depends. Admittedly, it's not the most friendly thing in the world, but it's the price you pay when trying to implement so many software changes or so many software items on a board like this with a limited display. Now, if I had used a display like this, or continued to use a display like this, where this is, 128 by 64 pixel display, I can put up a lot of stuff on here. But, I ran into this issue where, putting this in the radios was a little bit interesting. And I still may do it anyway, just for hell of it, but these are, depending on the color, they can be a little bit harder to read. So, right. And you're doing exactly what I really wanted to do. That was my goal, is to have everything, work. I can send you some code for that too. I can send you some code for the OLED. But that's the problem. The OLED, you couldn't really read it if you were a couple of feet from the radio. There was no way you could read this. But I had the channel numbers big enough so that you could read it. It had a row on the top with status information. This one had proper menus. Like, I literally had menu items that would highlight, and you could scroll through it. And but these are OLEDs. This board initially had code for OLEDs. That's what this port is over here. It's actually for the OLED. That was part of the reason for that port, was for the OLED. I'm not sure if that, I've pulled that out before, the old project. Where's the old, failed project box with those OLEDs in it? It's around here somewhere. I just saw it recently. I probably buried it again. But yeah, it had the old failed projects in that box, and There it is. I think this is it right here. Oh, yeah. That was right, because I pulled this thing out, too. You guys remember this. Well, you know, you can make things, you can only make things so simple before they're just, you know, trashy. And so I think it was this one. I think it's this one. Is this one. So I'll find out. I'll plug this one in and it'll either work or it won't. Yes, the 2000. That's going to be resurrected. I'm going to resurrect that. I get so many emails about that thing. A week doesn't go by where I don't get at least 2 emails about the Cobra 2000. I mean, literally. I'm totally going to resurrect it. I have to. It's just like a... Everybody wants to know about the Cobra 2000. So, I'm trying to... I didn't silkscreen on this prototype what's ground and what's power. So now I'm looking at the board trying to figure out... And it's a black board, too, so I can't tell what's ground and what's power. I just can't see it. It's that one. Okay. Which is ironically the red wire. Oh, man. So, VCC. Come on. Ground. I don't know if I'm going to get the data bus flipped around the wrong way. If it's just the wrong way, it just won't work. It'll just, you know, freak out or something. Just won't display anything. So let's power this beauty up. I think this is the one that worked with the big OLED. If it doesn't work with if the display's wrong, it'll just display weird. That's all. So let's turn on this power supply. We want to set this to volts. We want to make sure that that's good. All right, we've got some power. Let's give this a go. We got no display. That means it's probably, the data lines are probably backwards, more than likely. So we need to flip the data lines around probably. I didn't include a reset button on this beastie. Still doesn't drive it. It might be the wrong display too. Or there's not enough oomph in this to drive this. So let's see, volts. There we go. Supply A. There we go. It lives. You can see the refreshing in the camera. And it was banded, so you could see the letter. You see it refreshing. It's just it's flickering. Obviously, I don't see the flicker when I look at it, but you see it in the camera because that's the display draw. But I had bands on this one, so that's how that worked. Yeah. So that's basically it, and that I don't think it was that bad. I used to use this in my radio, so it isn't that bad. So yeah, right. So yeah, it's just a refresh rate of the display. I forget how many frames per second this was drawing. 60-ish, I think, was the frame rate. So. You know, this was the one that had the output, the RF output. So this one is outputting VCO to the radio because this has a a generator on it. So this was meant to be the PLL, the complete PLL replacement. And this was the prototype. It never made it past this stage. Because I had birdies. This was a birdie problem. And this would have been a display that went with it. So, it worked. I mean, it did. It just didn't work on a few channels. You had birdies. So you would take this signal and stick it in the radio and pull a PLL chip out or pull a VCO chip out or something out and inject it right there, and away you went. And it had bands. This had a 2 encoders, one for the clarifier, one for the channel selector. So that's how that worked. And it had two additional pins for a serial I/O output, I believe. RS-232, I believe, on these pins. So you could go to a computer, or you could interface with a computer, and you could send it commands to do whatever you wanted. That was part of the deal with this, is that this had serial control. This was SI 5351 clock generator. So it wasn't direct digital synthesis. It was a clock generator. The direct digital synthesis versions came after these, and those had birdies as well. And some of the birdies were really bad, and they didn't work too good in Cobra 2000s or 148. Some frequencies, they were just intolerable. You did full scale on receive. They were just on the right frequencies. So, on these it is. This was the 5351. There was a version after this that used the SI570. That was also I2C driven device. The SI570 or 571 was a little bit better, but still birdie prone. That didn't make it past breadboard. This made it past breadboard because I didn't catch the birdies initially. So the analog devices, what are those, 9351s or something like that, 80 something, 5051s. I got probably some in the drawer here. I got them on little boards. They're little expensive little buggers too. Here's one. These were not much better, believe it or not. They really weren't. They worked, but they were not much better. This is a 809851. Better, but not by much. It was just iffy is all. So it still had birdies, still had issues. Never really resurrected it. Sort of left it to the side. The Cobra 2000 one with the EPSA programmable clock gen chips. Yeah, that's the problem I ran into, is just birdies. This is the one that just captures the hearts and minds. Every time I pull it out of the box, I'll get 10 emails tomorrow. Because somebody will see this and they're like, oh my God, I want one of those. Because this is the counter module replacement for the Cobra 2000. It'll be, oh my God, I want one of those. They'll be like, oh, please send me one of those. Some of the buttons obviously worked. Yeah. But, yeah. People really wanted them. People really, this didn't make it past a prototype, as you can see. I mean, this was, a total bodge job. It was bodged into the radio. This was the next board that was going to get made for this, was this board right here to mount this display to. And, that didn't get, this is how far these got. These actually made it to prototypes. This one didn't. This didn't get past here. So, see. Oh man, people really wanted a Cobra 2000 with this thing in it. Um, it had two VFOs, um, you know, and it could scan between the VFOs, which was something that was novel. Um, so you could have it scan between two frequencies. You could do split, transmit, receive. Yeah, it did all that stuff. You know, it did all that stuff. This was going to be my 10-meter mod for the Cobra 2000. Totally for the Cobra 2000. This was my ultimate 10-meter mod, and yeah, I didn't get past birdie problems. So, yeah, yeah, exactly. And you know what? This this was my second foray into using Atmel X Mega chips, because I had never used X Megas. I had used AT Megas. I had used SAMs, which are ARM Cortex, whatever core level they are, from 0 on up. But I had never used X Megas, and this was my second X Mega. My first X Mega was some little minuscule thing that I used for glue logic. And this was my second. This was going to be a real standalone thing that used an X Mega, and this is all on an X Mega. And this runs at 32 megahertz. Needless to say, this worked really very well. This had a calibration procedure, which is what this jumper is on here. So when you shunted this jumper, you used it to align the, or to do an offset calibration for the clock generator, which is what that is. You can see what it's saying there. Connect frequency counter, set mode to AM, adjust for 35 megahertz coming out of the board. That's right, lead injectors. That's exactly what I need. And then you had a correction factor. So you would, tweak this value, and that would work out. You would have to get it as close to 35 megahertz as possible, which, believe it or not, you could get within 1 hertz of 35 megahertz. It was surprisingly accurate. The reference oscillators on these were all temperature compensated, very low ppm crystals. So the X Mega used internal RC running at 32 megahertz. This used a 25 megahertz, I forget, Fox something or other, X number of ppm crystal. So they're very, very stable crystals. You could put a heat gun on this thing and it will only change like a few hertz. They were remarkably stable crystals. So this thing was surprisingly accurate. You could get up to within 1 hertz resolution, but realistically about 2 hertz, which is pretty damn good, considering, what's going on. It was unfortunate that I kind of put this down, and I still, this is why it's out, actually, because I really do want to resurrect this. This was a really cool thing that I still want to pursue. I still want to pursue it. There was a birdie. This is a derivative of the one that I showed before. A derivative of this. So, yeah, same basic principle that this one operated on. This one got this far because these were done at the same time, which is why they're both like black boards. They were done at the same time. The only problem with this is that this was a different processor than this, so the code it isn't going to work. I suppose I could have wrapped everything with like ifdefs or something like that and used the same code base, but I didn't, because we had 2 different displays being drawn, so we had 2 different sets of code. These displays are fairly expensive. These are made by New Haven Display, and they come in 4 colors: green, red, blue, and white. But other than the birdies, it worked fine. I did not try the pre-scaler. It's why it's out. It's sitting over here because I want to put the pre-scaler in front of it. So what I'll do is I'll generate a higher frequency, divide that by 2, and see if that kills the noises. If it kills the noises, and I don't lose too much in the transfer or pre-scaling, then I'll change the The only problem with this was done in Altium. I don't have Altium anymore. You know, I uninstalled it, so I have to figure out how to convert my Altium project files to something else. Like I've been using KiCad, but yes, that's why pre-scaling it is probably what I'm going to try. So what I do is just double the frequency that I'm generating, and then pre-scale that down by 2, and I should clean, in theory, clean it up. In theory, it says it in the fine print. I'm going to try it. So bump it up, generate 70 megahertz, divide by 2 to get me back down to 35. So it should work. I'm going to give it a go. If it works, great. If it doesn't, I tried it. So I'll probably, but I got to figure out how to convert these, you know, out of Altium. I got to get this out of Altium. This is also a big board, so it's a fairly expensive board to produce. There's a lot of empty area. This I was going to have add-ons. That's what these pin headers are for. This was going to be for a wireless module. So you could pair it to say a phone, or put it on a wireless network, and then have a web page so that you could control the radio via a web page, or something like that. I was going to give it a go. That's what this pin header is for. This header. This was for a wire. Like I said, this was for a wireless. This was for expansion. That's what these plugs were for. You could pretty much make a board, plug it in here, and have more IOs for whatever you want. That was the intention with this. This is tied into the SPI and I2C and some extra pins off the some extra GPIOs. I think some of the A to D converter channels off the X Mega are also wired up to this pin header. So you could do something with this. You know, as far as if you needed something that you needed to read via, you know, an analog signal. So, you know, there was some, you know, basically using a built-in A to D converter in the in the X Mega. I forget how many bits they were. I think they're 12 bits. I still am kind of sort of looking for, well, Bluetooth I've got, stuff that I found. The wireless boards were off the shelf. I still have them because I actually use them for other things. I'll show you guys the wireless modules. They are, I don't drop them on the floor, of course. They are these little guys right here. Forget what these are. ESP8266 or something like that is what these are. So these just soldered in there, just like that. You know, so that was your wireless module right there. Actually, you could see it blinky blink, turning on the little LED. So, yeah. Because it's actually powered up. Whoopsie. But yeah, wireless modules. Never got that far. It was all an idea, and this was a prototype, and yeah, and have wireless modules and stuff like that. So the only problem with that is wireless. How do you get wireless outside of the frequency counter cage? It was going to be a problem because, you know, this goes in the Cobra 2000's counter cage. You close that cage up, wireless, it's inside of the cage. You know, what are you going to get 5 feet from the radio before your wireless signal's dead? So I was going to try to get some of those modules with external antenna connectors, and you just simply put the antenna outside of the radio somehow. You that would have worked fine. So, but yeah, that was once again looking down the path of nostalgia at the Cobra 2000 bit. Yeah, people are gonna email me. I want one anyway, even though it has birdies. I get that one too. I still want it, even though channel 70 is completely useless. Because that was one of them that it would wipe out. Channel 70 is useless. Oh, I don't care. I still want it anyway. No, I don't think I had a problem. You're right. But GSM here in the States, when I was hearing it, was most of your carriers are in 900 megahertz here in the States, or 800 megahertz, and some are in AWS 2.4 gig, 1.7 I think is the downlink, and 2.1 I think is the uplink, or something like that. I don't want it to be nostalgia. I want it to be working. I think the most disappointing day was when I decided that this really wasn't going to work, and it was like, in all seriousness, because I had actually worked so hard on this, because it was sort of, one of those things, and it was really hard to let it go. Like, it was one of those things where I wanted to bury my head in the sand and just, like, scream. Because it was like, damn it, this is the one thing I didn't want to fail, and I had to call it a failure. It just like, I couldn't sugarcoat it anymore. It was a failure, and the only way that you move forward, obviously, is to fail. So I failed, and it's one of those things that you have to be readily able to admit, that you fail, and I had to readily, come up and say, you know what, I failed. And right, exactly. I learned how not to do it. I learned how not to do it. So I failed. And now that I would do it again, I would do it differently. So, there may be some benefit that come from that. Now that I have failed, and I learned how not to do it, and I won't do it that way again, and I'll fix the mistakes. And I hadn't gotten as far, but I think what I found out, incidentally, I didn't find out from this, but I found out from an early prototype of this, that the Noise Toys, that the same design ended up from here to here, from the Noise Toys, it would have failed, and it did. So I actually learned from this from this prototype when I did these. The Noise Toys didn't work, not in all radios. They only worked in some radios because it's just, issues with transistors doing switching instead of a relay. This would have failed. It would have failed in another way. So I learned from the failure of the prototype on this one, that I won't repeat on this one if I do it again, because this one I just didn't get that far. It would have failed. So, there's there's definitely some benefits to failing. And yeah, I've definitely learned how to make some failures, that's for sure. So, I've got a whole box of failures around here somewhere. I think I've showed that before. It's the fail box. All the prototypes that actually made it to boards. And once they make it to boards, and then it's like, oh yeah, here's the rest of the failure box. More failures. Yeah, more failures. Here you go. You can see what this was. This was a failure right here. Another fail. More fails. Yeah, failure heaven, man. This was the fail box. Yeah, this was. Oh yeah, see, this was the one that I actually had in a radio. This one I had in a radio. This is the one with the double encoders. you see, this is the one with the 2 encoders. This one had the clarifier control, and this was the channel selector. This was the, the RF to the radio. You can see Captain Tape and bodges. Yeah, this was the predecessor of the black ones that the birdie still didn't get caught in. That's right. These were the red one. Was the red one first? The red one, I think, was first. And then the black one was, no, the black, I can't remember anymore. This was, one of them was first. Either the red one or the black one. The red one might have been the second one, incidentally. But it was found, the birdies were found, and then it was like, forget it. This one, I'll power it up. This one used a slightly different display. Third revision goes to market. On this one, I only had to go through one revision so far. Well, other than a prototype. Yeah, see, this is the one. This was the second version, because you see, it's not banded anymore. This one's not banded anymore, and this was the VFO. So it draws at a slower rate too. But you see, this was the VFO one. So it had the little cursor under it so that I could change, the step and everything like that. This was a really cool little project right here. This was the VFO mode, and then I could turn the channel selector, and it would go to, channel mode, and it still had bands. Okay. Yeah, it still had bands. So yeah, it went. This, well, I think the Galaxy band plan or something like that. This worked. I mean, this worked. It had a bodge. I changed out. I could see there's a tantalum capacitor and a different crystal oscillator. I think I bodged a different crystal. This is one where I bodged a different crystal oscillator. I think higher stability or something like that. But yeah. This was one that was destined for the place of this. This was born from this. As crazy as it sounds, like it went backwards, but this was just because there's birdies. But yeah, this totally fit into a 148 or the like. I had this in a 148, and other than the birdies, I never noticed a problem with it. It just worked. So, it was one of those things. It just worked, but I never noticed the birdies. You had to go to you have to go to specific frequencies, like right there would have been the birdie. 27695 would have been a birdie, because it was actually on 27.7 even. So right there, you would have heard just this absolutely screeching tone in the radio, because this probably is generating RF right now, because it would be just generating whatever frequency it needed to generate, 35 of some megahertz, 36 megahertz, depending on where you were at, to tune the radio. So this was I think this was the second one, actually, because it has the smaller display. This one had the smaller display, and the two. This one was, because it has the two encoders for the clarifier and for the intention of the clarifier was to alter the production board. You mean as the black one? Yes, it's the same chip. There was a version that had an SI 570 or 571, but I don't think that actually made it. I think that one didn't pass. I think I designed it and I didn't actually get any boards made. I might resurrect it. I might pull it out and refresh it and give it another go with a prescaler. I think that'll probably be worth the you know, doing that, sending them to the board house, having them make me a few, and you know, I never came up with any ways to mount the displays in the radio. It just didn't get that far. You know, it didn't like get to this point, you know, where these are. This obviously went all the way. This is what happens when it goes all the way to the end. It went all the way, this went all the way to the end. This didn't get past here, which is basically no plugs, all bodges, you know. It just didn't get past the prototype, which is what these are. This is a prototype, and this didn't get past this. So, you know, crappy layout, just bodged together just to see if it worked. You know, proof of concept. Because you make stuff like this to find out if it's going to work, and if it works, great. Then you know, you clean it up and you go through another rev if you need, and then, you know, you got it. I'll give it a go. I get asked all the time. I'm going to tell you this right now, okay? In all seriousness, if the Cobra 2001 went anywhere, it would be extraordinarily expensive, and I'm going to tell you why. Okay, these boards, this size, okay, you have to keep in mind, this is a pretty big bloody board, okay? This is 140 by 120. It's a big board, okay? Huge board. This board probably costs about $25 a piece to make. They're expensive. This was a hurt because this cost a lot of money to get this one made. Absolutely horrendous expense, which is another reason why I kind of cried, because I think I probably put like $2,000-$3,000 into this project, literally, and it went nowhere. I mean, a lot of money went into this. These displays are about $35, $40 a piece. The display, not the board, the display. They're expensive, really expensive. This would be like $200 to $300 for this. It would be expensive, really expensive. And it's because the cost. The board is so big. You know, it's the size of the board. The board houses, the bigger they are, the more expensive they are. You know, this is an expensive board to make. It's an odd shape, adds to the cost. But I was thinking that they were going to be at least $250 to $300 if they were going to get sold. The display, you know, is like 25% of the cost, damn near. The board was like another 25% of the cost. It's expensive. These would have been pricey. And that wasn't my fault. That was just, you know, this is like the only display that I could find that fits in a 2000 in the frequency counter. This is the only one, you know, it fits barely. And that was the problem. It was the display, finding a display to fit in there. It would have been really, really, really expensive. But you know what? People spend a lot of money on their Cobra 2000s, man. No, not really. People spend a lot of money on their Cobra 2000s. I think, you know what? I said that price to a few people, and they weren't phased. Like, really, that's all? Like, what do you mean that's all? I mean, it's like, what do you mean that's all? You know? I mean, it costs a lot of money. You know? I mean, then you got to think about extra bits. Now we got wiring harnesses. We got time to install it. Yes, it's a nice thing. It's a novelty. You would have dual VFOs. You would have all this wonderful stuff. You know, you would have, you know, accurate, a stable radio that didn't drift. You know, USB connectivity, because this had a USB host too. So you could put a dongle on this, and you could put memory USB thumb drives into it to upload beeps to it. You know, like this had a host interface. This was not a, you know, a slave device. This was actually a USB host and everything. It was quite nifty. You know, wireless, you know, 802.11, you know, G. I mean, just because of, and then it was going to be the whole, you put this on your network, and then you would, You could have a web page to control your radio. Exactly. Exactly. You're absolutely right. I had that problem with people. It's like, oh yeah, that's it. Okay, well here it is. It's time to deliver. Oh, but... What do you mean, oh, but? You said you would. Oh, but... Yeah, this would have been a highly custom thing for a highly custom radio for a very expensive radio, which only very small percentage of people would actually go for. Which is another reason why I ultimately shelved it, because it just didn't... I could not... This is the one project I could not get the cost down on, is this. There was no way. Not with the board size, not with the kind of display. The project, the size of the board and the display alone killed it. It's so expensive for the displays. Now, if I were to buy a lot of them, I could probably get the display cost down by like $5 a piece, but when you're talking $40 for a display going to $35, you're not really talking a whole lot of money. You know, you have to get that cost down a lot more. And the boards being like $40 a piece to produce, yeah, it's getting expensive. The X Mega processors are like $15, $20 a piece. You know, we have a lot of cost in this. You know, a lot of cost. Now the SI 5351s are in obtanium. They've been discontinued. So if anything, this is dead in the water in its current incarnation because, well, the chips are not made anymore. At the time, they were current production. Silicon Labs apparently pulled them. They don't make them anymore. DigiKeys run basically on the, you know, until when stock is exhausted, they're not going to have them anymore. Nobody has them anymore. Which is probably why they all of a sudden disappeared one day. And I said, hey, what happened to those? And then I think SI Labs pulled it. I think they, I don't know. You could look at New Haven Display, and if the cage would, yes, it would. You don't need all that space. I mean, I'm occupying. If I wanted to shrink this down, I could probably shrink this down to this size. You know, I mean, totally doable. The only reason it's laid out like this is because there was so much room. It was like, oh, I got all this board space. You know, it's just like, but no, you don't need all that space. It really doesn't need it. It was just laid out with all this space because it was convenient. New Haven. I'm waiting for the Chinese. If the Chinese produce this, got to keep in mind, New Haven Display, I don't think these are made in China. I think they're made in the States. They're pretty expensive because it's, I think, an American company. It's an American company that's making this. So let's see, New Haven Displays. We need OLEDs because this is an OLED. It's called a slim OLED. So we got slim OLEDs. The price is lower now. Actually, the price has come down on these. Yes, a custom cage would fix the amount, but the problem is, are we just moving the cost from the board to a now custom cage that has to be built? It's worth investigating, totally. All right, so blue, green, red, and yellow. Not white. I'm sorry, I thought it was white, but it's yellow. They are $29.90 now, so they're $30. So now they're $30. They've come down about $10. That's still not really. I mean, that's better. I mean, they're still $30, but you know, but they're very good displays. In all seriousness, some of the work products that I can't talk about, we actually using these displays in them now. We were using Hitachi cheapo displays, the ones that you can get, you know, a dime a dozen, like one of these. 2x16s. These are the you know, the Hitachi drivers, the HD, whatever the hell they are. These are cheap. You can get these a dime a dozen. DigiKey price? That's a good question because, you know, DigiKey, either they're going to have it for more or they're going to have it for less. Those do come from DigiKey, incidentally. Let's see, DigiKey, DigiKey. I have one that I killed, also making an expensive project. I blew up a display. Here's the one I blew up. I still have it here because I've been meaning to tear it apart. And this is the number for the display right here. It's an NHD. Let's see. NHD dash 0420CW. DigiKey. Okay, so there's the 4 displays, $29.90, same price. They have 74 of the what are these color? Come on. I guess those are red. 74 reds, 98 greens, 424 blues, and 469 yellows. But yeah, we started using these in a real commercial product, and they're very nice. They worked really well in one of our commercial products because we were using these. And these only have 2x16, but with these they're 4x20, and so we could display a little bit more data on them. So we switched to using these in the panels. Customers are happy with them. We got a lot of good feedback. It's like, finally you got rid of that old display. And then we started using these about a year ago, and we've been happy with them. They like them for the products that the day stuff I can't really say anything about. But yeah, customers are happy with them. They like these displays better than they like the other ones. So yeah, $29.90 is a DigiKey as well. That's what their price. Same price from New Haven, same price at DigiKey. So they're not undercutting their distributors. They're probably giving DigiKey a break on them, obviously, and it's the same price. So the MSRP, I guess. So DigiKey is passing the same price along. So I'm fine with that. DigiKey, they're going to sell whatever, they sell for the same price. That's fine. You can get it in quantity. Like if you were to buy 10, I don't think I still have the page up. I think I closed it. No, I still have it up. So if I was going to buy them, let's say I was going to buy blues. So I go pick on blue. What's the quantity? Price break at 5, $28.10. So, you get a dollar and change off. I could, and I talked about that, because we're going to buy, 500 of them, which drives the price down to $23. That was originally the intention, is that I would buy, buy a lot. We bought like a whole bunch, because when we do a production run, we're going to buy 1,000 of them. But the suppliers didn't go to DigiKey; they went to New Haven directly. The parts guys, the procurement guys went to They didn't go to DigiKey. They tried to go directly and went to New Haven, I think, and they got 1,000 or something like that. It is. If you get like 1,000, it's a deep discount. So yeah, through the company, I was probably going to buy. I could probably buy them for cheaper. So that was the idea, to try to shave like $5 off. I could definitely do it that way. So, because that's the problem. I don't do anything with procurement. We just design it and whatnot. Here's a BOM, and go get the stuff and then build it. Hello, how are you? So, yeah. It's probably more feasible now than it was, a year ago, roughly, when I was doing this. A year and a half ago. I think this is about a year and a half ago now. So it's probably more feasible now than it was then, because displays are cheaper. I really could, make a board that is smaller, and maybe make a smaller cage. In all seriousness, the reason that the Cobra 2000 had a cage is because the old TTL and CMOS that was in that counter was a complete mind-numbing experience with the noise. I'm not entirely sure that I need the cage. I'm questioning whether I need the cage. I'm questioning whether or not the board just doesn't mount right where the cage was. And you just pull the whole bloody cage out. I questioned that initially when I did this. Like, I don't even know why I'm trying to make it fit in the cage. I should just make a board this size and have the standoffs in those positions where it just stood up right where the two holes were for the original cage, and you know, moved on. That probably would have worked just fine. You know, I'm wondering now that I think about it, why don't I just do it that way? I don't need to make such a large board. That shaves a significant cost off, because that will bring the board down from the, you know, probably $30 or $40 a board down into the $10 a board realm, because it's not an odd shape. For starters, it's not a weird shape. You know, it's smaller. So, right. I think that it is. Yes. And that's why they needed the cage. I don't think I have a noise problem with. I didn't think I had a noise problem with this. Not like the frequency counter, the original counter module, man. The original counter module is noisy as all get out. I don't think I had that problem with this. Even with this open, you know, serial data cable, I don't think I had a problem with this making a whole lot of noise. Like, I didn't have, like, you know, hums or squeals or, you know, data noise, you know, blah, 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 noise in the radio with this. I don't think it was a problem. Howdy, James. Or Gardner. Something. Gardner, I guess. Gardner. I'm trying to look. Yeah, Gardner. I'm sorry. Trying to look at this, squinting at the screen. So yeah, I think this is probably feasible. I'll try to convert the things over from Altium and see if I can get them in KiCad somehow. I don't know how you convert Altium to KiCad. Yeah. So what is this thing telling me? Oh. I don't know, something shipped from somewhere. So, yeah, I'll resurrect it. I thought about just omitting the cage and just plop it sideways down in the, kind of like these go in the radio, have the mounting, just plop it down sideways in the radio. These don't really make a whole lot of noise either. You know, some radios, they're noisy as hell, and others are not fun. They're perfectly quiet. So I think it really also depends on the radio. It has something really big to do with it. This should have made a lot of noise. There's no decoupling caps on this display up here. There's no filtering. It's just this is a bodge board. I didn't even like this. It just worked. So, you know, I don't recall having a noise problem. The birdies were generated by the synthesis. Yeah, the 44780 is the one I showed earlier. Incidentally, for those who don't know, that's the Hitachi thingamabob. Yeah. For those who don't know what he's talking about, that's a 44780. Is this little one here? That's what that is. This is an LCD backlit deal. Yeah, I don't know if I need the cage. I really don't. I'm starting to wonder if I need the cage. I'm thinking no. I'm thinking I can probably do away with that one. So, no cage. Yeah, so I'm thinking the cage might not be. We'll have to give it a shot. See if we can put it in the cage. You know, it tried either way. The cage is there. This mounted right in the cage. There's the four posts in the cage. You know, yeah, right, to make it and find out. Make it on a small board and see if you can stand it up where the cage was. If you got noise, you need to shield it, well, you need to get a cage. It's one way to do it. You can probably put it in a small project box. You know, build it for a project box, a metal, you know, aluminium project box, mount the whole aluminium project box in the radio, and have the glands for the cables come out. You know, but the cables, you know, you'll have to common mode choke them and everything else. So anyway, guys, in other news, I have kind of neglected these little displays. I know I showed these before. These are 4D Systems displays. Like this is the little baby one that I got. That's kind of cool. It's a little baby one. You know, capacitive touch. Want to put one of these in a radio. I know that's crazy as hell, isn't it? I want to put one of these in a radio. That would be neat. You know, to put one of these in a radio. Be really friggin' neat. And then I got the bigger one that I really need to play with some more. I really need to. This is the one that sort of excites me just a little bit. I know I've showed this before. This is this. I got emails about this. When are you going to have the radio? I'm like, really? When am I going to have the radio? It's a bloody screen. I hadn't even thought about putting this on a radio yet. You know? That was this deal. That was this deal right here. Not yet. This is made by an Australian company called 4D something or other. What is this company's name? 4D Systems. This is an Australian display. They're made down under, so to speak. They got their little Australian designed logo. Very, very nice displays. I like these displays a lot. You know, I mean, this is, you know, touch screens and all runs on the display. You know, had menus. Remember, I put this little about picture in, and yeah, you know, that would be that would be cool for a radio. It really would. Displays are very responsive. You know, these are, you know, very responsive displays. This was a menu screen that I never built, which is why there's only 2 buttons in it, and that was like the first one. It has an about and a picture, and I was experimenting with various things. You know, very responsive displays. You know, sure that, you know, they have time to draw, but it really isn't that at all. Exactly. Peter knows where I'm going with this. Peter knows where I'm going with this. He knows where I'm going. It didn't take him long to figure it out. So yes, you could get ones that would fit in there. I mean, it would be, what do they say down under? The duck's guts? Or the bee's knees? Very nice displays. I'm very, very just happy with how easy it is to design the user interface. And that all goes out through a serial connection on this board. Well, this is a bit big, you know. For that, I think it would be really big. But think about it, a radio like, there's a few radios that have the speaker that are mounted right, that are on the radio. Pierce Simpson had some like that. Radio Shack has some like that. The Washington, which I've got one sitting here. Can you imagine? You know, right here. In fact, I think the display would like fit perfectly. Oh, almost, but it's too big, but almost. Just a little bit too big, but so close. Could you imagine? Okay, so you have to have an external speaker. I think people would trip over themselves to get something like that. You know, it would be cool. But you have to redesign the whole faceplate of the radio. You could do it. You have to redesign the faceplate, take the speaker out. But if you were going to do it and get a new faceplate, you would redesign the layout of the radio. You'd take the S meter out. You wouldn't need the S meter anymore. You wouldn't need the channel display anymore. You wouldn't need the channel selector anymore. Because what do you need a channel selector for? The smaller one definitely would, but I think it would be really too small. It's pretty small. I think there's one in between this one and that one. I'll have to look at it. Boot up time is normally a lot faster. It's just that what it's trying to do, it's trying to talk to the computer, and the computer is not sending it what it wants, so it times out and then it just boots up. Because the code that runs on this is on a SD card that's on the display. So there's a 4 gigabyte SD card that has the memory, that has the program, the application on it. So, you know, it's a really cool display. You have graphics, you can put pictures and stuff. Really cool displays. This is the one project that I really wanna do. I've got so many projects, as you guys know, and that's why I was kind of like saying, hey, who wants to kind of work on these projects? Because I don't know, it's a lot for one guy. It really is. But these guys, the 4D Systems people, these are made by 4D Systems. Their web address, 4dsystems.com.au. I went on their forum and asked a couple questions. They're super helpful. Super helpful. Really nice blokes. Super helpful guys. Because I had a question I didn't quite understand, like how it communicated, and it really wasn't registering to me. And they're like, "Oh yeah, read this," and I was like, and I didn't find it at what I was looking for, and they knew exactly what I was asking, and they pointed me exactly where I needed to read. It's like, hey, you know, and even offered me examples, you know, of what I was trying to accomplish initially. I'm like, oh wow, great. So really super helpful guys. So I'm really impressed with their product. You know, it's a very impressive product. So much so that we're thinking about incorporating it into a refresh of a commercial design. Yes, that's why I got the little display. We're thinking about when we do a refresh again and we change these displays, because this display goes in a product and it has buttons below it. We're thinking we'll just change it to the touchscreen. You know, here's the kicker for those who don't understand why it's a consideration. This display, this little one, this little display, okay, so it's, you know, small. You know, it's about the same area that you can do here, but you can do graphics and things like that. And it's a capacitive touchscreen, but this display costs as much as this display. I'm not kidding you. This is about $30, and this is $30. It's the same cost. This being a touchscreen, we can eliminate the buttons. So we'd actually save some cost on the extra board with the buttons that this mounts to. Oh, and this comes with a bezel already. There's a bezel already bloody attached to it. So you don't even have to have a bezel that we have to have for this. Saves on the hardware. That's why this is probably going to be the next display that gets used in that particular item. We're going to totally change it out. We're going to use these displays, probably and most likely. In fact, our meeting is tomorrow. This is going to come up. This will be we have a weekly meeting. This is actually why it's sitting over there, because this is what I'm going to bring to the table and toss it down just like that. Say, here we go. Put this in. Stop making all those custom bezels and all that kind of stuff to fit the Alpha display, and take away the buttons and put that touchscreen in. So, you know, that's the idea behind that display. So, there's no room for it. So, I don't know. It's like the smallest capacitive touchscreen they make, I think. The rest of them are, you start getting to resistive, and we don't want a resistive. Resistive isn't as I mean, you saw how that touchscreen worked when I demoed it, when I was sitting here touching it. That's a capacitive touchscreen. It's like flawless. You know, they've got a pretty good touch controller implementation. Everything seems to work. So, Australian product, made in Australia. It's not a Chinese product. You know, it's made in Australia, and I would rather send my dollars to Australia than to China, personally. I mean, as bad as that might sound, I'd rather do that. I'd rather send them to Australia than China. But, you know, they make a good product. I've been very happy with them. I'm very happy with the product, what I've played with. That display that I showed took me about 15 minutes to do. I'm not kidding you. Like 15 minutes it took to make that. It's really quick to, their environment is really good. So anyway, guys, it's getting late. I need to turn it in for that meeting tomorrow. It's 1 in the morning. The meeting's at 10:30, so 9.5 hours away. So meeting, as always, that won't be any fun. I never like some of our meetings. Guys come in, complain about costs. Yeah, it's one of those things. So, but anybody has any questions about the 2000? Shoot me an email. Dollars about 0.75, so they're almost they're almost in parity. So if I took $1 to Australia, I would get $1.25 Australian dollar, I guess. So what if I'm doing that right, yeah. So I've never been to Australia. I want to go to Sydney. I want to see like the Opera House. I want to go totally as a tourist. You know what I mean? It's one of those countries you have to go see. You know, I want to see like I want to be a tourist in Australia. I don't know how Australians like tourists. I hope they don't mind them. If I totally want to go to Australia, I'm totally going to be a tourist. I'm going to take pictures. I'm going to want to see the sights. I want to see the Sydney Harbour Bridge. I want to see the Opera House. I want to see all the sights. I want to go to that's what I want to go see. I want to go see all those things. So, and be a tourist. So it's been fun, guys. It looks like I've got some things to play with tomorrow. So I've got a thingamabobby Jackson, and this Clear Channel big beastie thing to play with. So yeah, cool. I'd like to see your video. Fly to Perth? Okay. I'll tell you guys what. When I want to visit Australia, I would probably want to visit Australia and New Zealand probably at the same time, because if you're going to be in that part of the world, you might as well go to both places. So if it ever came to pass where me and the wife and the little guy get big enough so that we can sort of travel, we'll go to both places, because obviously they're a hell of a lot closer. Especially when you just flew around the world and to the other side of the hemisphere, you might as well go to both places at the same time, or in the same week or 2 week span. I'll hit you guys up. You can tell me all the wonderful things that I can visit. So if it comes to pass, maybe it will. I don't know. We've talked about doing a trip like that, but obviously it's an expensive trip. So and we got a little guy. But anyway, guys, it's been fun as always. If I get up here tomorrow, play around with a Jackson. I'll play around with some more with this code. I don't know. I got to make a library to talk to it. So yeah. Yeah, 2 weeks. You know, go to the both countries, go to New Zealand, see the countryside of New Zealand, which is, you know, you see pictures of it and you want to go because it's just, you just want to see it. You know, Australia and this, you know, cool things they got there. So anyway, guys, cheers, good night, good day, whatever it is for you guys. And you know, if I fire it up tomorrow, we'll play around with a Jackson and this whatever the hell this clear channel thing with a knob sticking out of the side of it is. So have fun, guys. Catch you later. Cheers for now. Go to Def Palm's videos, thumbs up. Hey, thumbs up mine while you're at it. You know, make sure the haters don't hate, and have a good night and a good day. Catch you later. Cheers.